Before we get to the main event, one last word on the last football game played by Auburn University. Stop talking about Oklahoma. Okay, moving on. It's that time again. Heavyweight championship time. Ali Frazier time. Alabama, Georgia time. We haven't been able to really talk about it this week because so much has been happening at Auburn on the football side, on the basketball side. Rather massive transition from the greatest coach they've ever known, Bruce Pearl, to his son, Stephen. And let's be honest, no one knows if Stephen Pearl can uphold the legacy that he contributed to as a key member of that staff. But as Terry Bowden said, in an incredible bit of wisdom, with a touch of humility that we didn't always used to see from Terry, I'm a Bowden. I'm not Bobby Bowden. Keep that in mind as Auburn basketball gets rolling in the post-Bruce Pearl era. Okay, now we've got to talk about Alabama, Georgia. Because this is a battle of opposites. This is a clash of titans. This is the big dogs of the SEC against the big elephants of the SEC. This is an unstoppable hex against an immovable jinx. Kirby Smart in this corner with his record against Alabama weighing heavily on him. And in this corner, Kalen DeBoer with his record away from Tuscaloosa weighing against him. So, where do we go from here? First of all, make it make sense. Make Kirby Smart's record against Alabama as compared to his record against everyone not named Alabama make sense. Because Kirby is 107-13 against the rest of college football since he became the Georgia head coach in 2016. 107-13. Those are Saban-like numbers. However, against the team that Saban used to coach, he is 1-6. And if you thought that it was just a case of Saban being Kirby's daddy, his mentor, his role model, the man who taught him the ropes, who showed him how to run a football program that puts together a consistent run of excellence unlike anything we've ever seen. That might have been the case had Georgia not gone to Alabama last year in the first year without Nick Saban on the Alabama sideline and gotten beat. So how do you explain that? Is it something in the crimson jerseys, the crimson helmets? What is it about Alabama that turns Kirby Smart into Brian Harsin? Okay, that's unfair. That's wrong. That's extreme. That's over the top. Those games have been, for the most part, very competitive, including last year when Alabama tried to run away from Georgia and Carson Beck led the Bulldogs back, took the lead late, and then Ryan Williams did his Top Gun Maverick move. I'm going to hit the brakes. They'll fly right by. And scored the winning touchdown on a pass from Jalen Milroe. So there is no logical explanation for the difference between Kirby's record against everyone else and against Alabama. But it's there. It's something we have to deal with. More importantly, it's something that he and his team have to deal with. And we'll see how they deal with it Saturday night. The other thing that makes no sense about this game when we're talking about the head coaches is Kalen DeBoer's record away from Tuscaloosa in his 1 year and 1 month on the job. 9-0 in Bryant-Denny Stadium. 2-5 in games not in Bryant-Denny Stadium. With some really ugly losses. First of all, to Vanderbilt. A year ago, after Alabama beats Georgia and jumps to number 1, They go to Nashville, and they cannot get off the field defensively. Vanderbilt controls the game. It's not a fluke. 40 minutes or so of possession time. That's absurd. That's unheard of for most defenses, let alone an Alabama defense. Then they go to Tennessee, and they roll up, 15 penalties? Total lack of discipline. Total inability to deal with a hostile environment. Then they go to Oklahoma. They can't get in the end zone. Well, they did get in the end zone. Ryan Williams made another one of his circus catches. The play was overruled or called back by a bizarre penalty, although I don't recall Greg Byrne issuing a statement about it 5 days later. Just another difference between Alabama and Auburn. But those two things, there's no way to reconcile. The fact that Kirby Smart has had a very difficult time with Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer has had a very difficult time away from Tuscaloosa. You can't really explain those things. Here's something else that's inexplicable. There's another bizarre streak that's occurred in this series that people aren't talking as much about. Maybe we should. So let's do. What's happened when Georgia's been the higher-ranked team? And that's happened more often than not. In fact, in the 11 meetings since 2007, Georgia's been ranked higher than Alabama 6 times. And in those 6 meetings, as the higher-ranked team, according to the AP poll, Georgia is 0-6. 0-6. When Alabama's been ranked higher, Alabama's won 3 and lost 2. So the lower-ranked team has won 8 of the last 11 meetings. Explain that. And it goes back to the 2008 game, the blackout. Please tell me Georgia's not planning another blackout. There's been chatter about that on the internet. No official announcement that I've seen from the University of Georgia. However, they did announce a day or so ago that they're going to pass out 65,000 LED wristbands. Not sure why they're stopping at 65. They're going to have a lot more people in the building than that. But those wristbands are going to be synced to the sound and light system of Sanford Stadium. Just another way to turn up the volume, blind the visitors, discombobulate everyone, and create an atmosphere that Alabama won't be able to handle. They hope. We'll see. One aspect of the LED wristbands I find a bit troubling from Georgia's perspective is I learned that they are typically used or handed out at concerts. And the example that I saw was that they were handed out during Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Not sure that's a good precedent for a football game. We'll see. But that's another part of this upside down. These stranger things that keep happening when Alabama and Georgia play. But there is a more tangible streak that we should pay attention to. A more concrete set of numbers that do make sense and that tell you something about Kalen DeBoer that people aren't telling you. How have his teams performed after a bye week? When you have extra time to prepare, you can self-scout. You can break down what you've done to that point in the season, what has worked, what hasn't. What have your opponents started to get familiar with? What tendencies have you displayed? And, of course, you do the same for the other team. And this is really telling. And it tells me this. Don't give Kalen DeBoer extra time to prepare. His overall record after a bye week as a head coach is 15-2. Now, you can say, and you can counter and come back, and you'll be correct when you say, Well, a lot of those games were before he became an FBS head coach. He wasn't playing the kind of competition in the kind of environment that he's going to face on Saturday night. And that would be true. Okay, so let's narrow the parameters here. Let's look at how he's done as an FBS head coach. Let's throw out 2020, the COVID year, his first year at Fresno State. Let's start with 2021. Since 2021, in his time at Fresno State, Washington, and Alabama, he is 6-0 after a bye week. Let's narrow the parameters even more. How's he done against ranked teams with extra time to prepare? He's 4-0 in those spots. He's beaten number 23 Oregon State, number 8 Oregon, and last year at Alabama, number 2 Georgia, and number 15 LSU. On the road, I might add. So when you say Kalen DeBoer can't win road games, factually incorrect. He has. Not as many as he would have liked, as the Alabama fan base would have preferred, but he can because he has. Just as if you say Kirby Smart can't beat Alabama, yes, he can. He has. Only once in 7 tries, but it was a rather big one, the 2021 National Championship game. So Kirby Smart can beat Alabama. Kalen DeBoer can win on the road. It's not impossible. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a long shot. But what hasn't happened since these rivals started playing back in 2007, Georgia actually handed Nick Saban his first loss as the Alabama head coach in Tuscaloosa. Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown pass in overtime for Mark Richt and company. So what is indisputable is that the higher-ranked team, when the higher-ranked team has been Georgia, has been unable to beat the lower-ranked team when the lower-ranked team has been Alabama. Now, we've never seen a gap like the one we'll see Saturday. We've never seen Georgia ranked this much higher than Alabama. Georgia's number 5. Alabama's number 17. In fact, we've not seen anyone ranked that much higher than Alabama going into a game against the Crimson Tide since the first game of the 2008 season. We keep seeing connections to 2008 here. The 2008 blackout. They're wearing black because they're going to a funeral, as Scott Cochran so eloquently said. Now, he added an adjective that started with the letter F before the word funeral that we won't repeat, but you get the picture. And he was right. I remember the atmosphere in Sanford Stadium that night. It was nuts. Georgia wanted blood. But unfortunately for them, the only blood they tasted was their own. So somehow, some way, Georgia, as the higher-ranked team, has been unable to beat Alabama in this long run since 2007. Also, Kalen DeBoer, as a head coach at the FBS level since 2021, has won every game that his teams have played after a bye week. And 4 of those games were against ranked teams, and 1 of those games was just a year ago against Georgia. So put that all in a big bowl, stir it up, sprinkle in the LED wristbands, and what do you get? Who do you pick? Who wins this game? Both teams can win this game. Each team is good enough to win this game. And each team has enough flaws that if the other team exploits them, they can lose this game. So how do you make a choice? Well, when I look at what Alabama has done under Kalen DeBoer after bye weeks, what Kalen DeBoer has done at Alabama and Washington and Fresno State after bye weeks, when I look at the fact that Jam Miller is coming back at tailback tailback number 1 for Alabama. And when I hear during the week Ty Simpson say that Jam Miller's been practicing like a madman, he can't wait to get back out there. He wanted to play against Wisconsin. They wouldn't let him. Probably smart. They didn't need him that night. They will need him Saturday night. Because Saturday night's all right for fighting. And they'll see a red door and they'll want to paint it black. And they'll be flashing the LED wristbands. And it'll be nuts. Just like it is every time these two teams get together. But there's another factor in Alabama's favor, a tangible factor. On the other side of the ball, Tim Keenan is back in the middle of that defensive front. And Alabama's defensive front has not been vintage as we think of during the Saban era. Go back to Gene Stallings, Curry and Copeland, and that bunch. Alabama's not been dominant on defense. And part of the reason has been the absence of Tim Keenan. He's healthy. He's back. He's going to be in uniform. He's going to be a factor. One of his teammates, Deontay Lawson, this past week said he is the heart and soul of that defense. They've been playing without their heart and soul. And they didn't seem to have a lot of heart and soul, certainly in the opener against Florida State and Tallahassee, which just reinforced the notion that Kalen DeBoer's teams aren't the same home and away. So that gives you pause if you want to pick Alabama. As does Kirby Smart's record against Alabama if you want to pick Georgia. But I have a feeling, call it a gut, call it an instinct, call it what you will. I've been on the Ty Simpson bandwagon. I really believe that he is developing into one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the SEC, in the country. I believed it as I watched it that first Saturday, and I believed it in the immediate aftermath that he was not the reason, he was not the primary reason, not close to it, to explain why Alabama lost at Florida State. He didn't play his best game. It was a tough environment against a quality opponent to get your first start. But he has grown tremendously since then. And the combination of Ty Simpson and those receivers against this Georgia secondary, go back and look at what Joey Aguilar from Tennessee did against this Georgia secondary and this Georgia defense, which is far from a vintage Kirby Smart defense. And we're going to see some points. We're going to see Georgia score some points. Gunnar Stockton has outperformed my expectations for him and a lot of people's expectations. What he did at Tennessee to overcome the offensive fireworks the Vols were able to put up, especially early, was dang impressive. And if you've ever been in Knoxville, if you've ever been in Neyland Stadium for a game like that, I've been there for Alabama games. I've been there for Auburn games. I've been there for Florida games back in the 90s when Spurrier was Darth Visor to Philip Fulmer and the Volunteers. That is one of the most intimidating environments in college football. And on fourth down, late in the game, needing to score a touchdown to force overtime, Gunnar Stockton's corner route throw to London Humphreys is the pass of the year, maybe the play of the year in college football so far. To make that throw under that kind of duress, in that kind of environment, that's special. So Gunnar Stockton is going to cause some problems for the Alabama defense. But I don't believe Gunnar Stockton is the same quarterback as Ty Simpson. I believe Ty Simpson is going to be the player that decides this game. I'm not sure which receiver will catch the ball that turns the game. Could be Ryan Williams again, as he did to Georgia last year to score the winning touchdown. When he did his Top Gun Maverick move, I'll hit the brakes, they'll fly right by. He did it to Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago. Not sure whether it'll be Jeremy Bernard. But that receiving core and that quarterback showing the command that he's demonstrated since the opener If that offensive line gives him time, watch out. Because after a bye week, as an FBS head coach, the last 4 years, Kalen DeBoer's teams have averaged 35 points a game. So who wins this game? Again, call it a gut, call it an instinct, call it a vibe, call it whatever you like. I'm leaning Alabama, 34-31. If it turns out that way, remember where you heard it first. If it doesn't turn out that way, if the red and black avalanche buries the Tide, if Kirby takes that gorilla off of his back and pins him, then forget you ever knew me. That's going to do it today for Scarbo Knows. I'm Kevin Scarbinski. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out our sponsor, Money Management Services. The Rice family will treat you right. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.
All right. It is a Friday. It's a big one, big weekend coming up. Rob Browne in Memphis. Do us a favor, take a picture with your cellular phone of the QR codes. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels simultaneously. And then, of course, Brendan is posting reels every day throughout the day. A lot of shows, 8 of them on this channel. So it's your one-stop shop, and get ready for the hour of power. The best 60 minutes on the SEC you'll find anywhere, because we got the best producer, Brendan Martin, and the best guest like Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Dog Nation. You see him a lot, as some of the folks down in South Alabama call it, the Paul Finebaum show. I heard a guy say that one time, Mike. I'm like, Paul Finebaum? Oh, you mean Feinbaum. But anyway, look, where do you want to start with the big games this weekend? Any coach will tell you any game in the SEC is a big one. A lot of people already texted me this morning, Mike, about your article with the picture of Erskine Russell from Mobile, Alabama. Everybody's fired up about it, but thank you for sharing your time with us. And let's talk Dogs and Tide.
Yeah, 1976. We won't go too far into it, but since you mentioned it, I guess I didn't realize the magnitude of it. I mean, I'm 8 years in. I'm still learning a lot about the team I cover. Learned a lot about Alabama, learned a lot about Tennessee. And this 1976 game, I mean, no offense to Nick Saban, but Paul Bear Bryant won 5 SEC championships in a row. Nobody'd ever done it before, and nobody's ever done it since. And, Georgia's win over Alabama that year, 21-0 win. It was the first time that Paul Bryant's wishbone offense had been shut out since it was put in 5 years earlier. So there was a lot of significance, and Georgia snuck in an SEC championship there in 76. I had an opportunity to talk to Bob Baumhauer yesterday, and what a great legend he is. What a great man. I know you're familiar with the wings restaurants that he has everywhere, but you have people like that in the program that bleed crimson and tell the story. And he was on the losing side, and yet he understood the relevance of that. He pointed out how that game propelled Alabama forward as they went on to win more SEC titles and national championships. So, and you wonder about this Saturday night's game. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. You wonder about the future of Kalen DeBoer if he loses this game, and if Alabama goes on to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. You wonder about the legacy of Kirby Smart, who only has 19 losses in 10 years, but 6 of them are Alabama. with only one loss, albeit a national championship game. So, you know, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of legacy at stake. I think the future, Kalen DeBoer could be on the line ultimately. If Alabama wins this game, I still think they're a playoff team. If they lose, it probably goes more 50-50 for me, depending on how the team responds. You don't know about a team culture when there's so much newness in the staff. And again, you know, a lot of these players, they didn't sign up for this. You know, they signed up for Nick Saban, which is not to say that Kalen DeBoer is not a great coach. He is, but that is a disadvantage, you know, to a program like Georgia where the guys signed up for Kirby and this coaching staff and relationships and the roles they were promised. Not saying it can't be overcome. We've seen it overcome before, but it is more challenging on Coach DeBoer.
Yeah, and you think about this, the history in this series. I don't think Georgia has beaten Alabama, but between the hedges, it's been like 30 years. And since 2020, what's Georgia's record? 63-3, but they're 1-4 against Alabama. And so what is the mentality, before we go to Doug and Frank, of Georgia's team? Kirby, I think, gets it, but are the players maybe making it too big in their heads?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think Matthew Stafford beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa in 2007, and I think Georgia won a game here. And that was Nick Saban's first year, or second year. I'm sorry. And then I believe that Mark Richt actually won his first 3 games against Alabama. I think he beat David Shula a couple times, and then won that game in Tuscaloosa with Stafford. So Richt finished 3-3 against the Tide. And no, I mean, those players weren't here. You know, I don't think there's as much carryover for the players as there is the fan bases, and some of the analysts like us, you know, been watching a while, and in our mind it's grouped together. But, you know, 54% of this Georgia roster, you know, they've only been here 2 years, you know, so that's not a lot. You know, it's a lot of newness. It's a lot of guys that, you know, came in and, you know, trying to uphold something, you know, what Georgia did when they beat Alabama for the title in 2021 and destroyed TCU and beat Ohio State, a really good Ohio State in 2022 to win a national title. No, I don't think it's too much on the players. I feel like, you know, the way Kirby does his practices and the level of competition, I know it sounds cliche, and, you know, my goodness, just a couple of weeks ago, they won an incredible game at Tennessee on the road. I think that was a big game for confidence and for the coaches to kind of find out who's who and sort it out. So no, I think it's just a younger Georgia team. Doesn't have the talent they did when nobody's going to stockpile the kind of talent they had in 21 and 22. But these guys are, look, guys, you know this is going to be a fight for survival every week in the SEC, all over the league.
Yeah, it is. Frank Duffy, jump in here. Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Dog Nation. It's a great podcast, and read his writing, people. It's great stuff.
Well, it's not only the fact that Georgia has lost to them, it's how they lost to them. I mean, they got curb stomped several times by Alabama. But you know, to your point, the psychology is totally different without the greatest coach of all time on the other sideline. All that changed. It's like talking about them losing Georgia 3 times during the Rick, you know, Shula era, or as me and Doug and Rob say, the good old days when Auburn was beaten 6 times in a row and we were beating them 5 times in a row. Totally different animal. I think what Kirby has done, though, is he has set a Saban-like precedence at the University of Georgia. And that's what's truly different. The culture has shifted. Yeah. Georgia is expecting to go out and win, and Alabama and their fan base are holding their breath because they don't know what they got. To paraphrase the great Alabama, you know, kick returner Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. And after Nick Saban, everything is up in the air. So, no, I think Kirby and them are going to lay in wait. I think they're going to win this ball game. I think they're going to cover. I think Alabama is going to have the grumblings again. Slackjaw Willie's going to be on, you know, suicide alert somewhere in the bowels of Alabama. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think Kirby has set this tone. This is not going to be something that's a shock. I think it's something that Kirby and the Dogs are expecting. Yeah, they're a young team, but they've got depth, they've got talent, they've got as much talent as Alabama's got. And I think right now, if you have to say who's got the better program, it's the University of Georgia.
Mike?
Well, I think they have the better program because of the continuity. The coaching staff probably has more cohesion, but I'm not sure they have more talent. I mean, I look at Alabama, Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton. I mean, I think that, I don't know that I can really separate the two. Ty's done a lot of good things this year, and as well as his Gunnar. But when I look at the receivers, Bernard and Ryan Williams, I mean, those guys are special, man. I mean, those guys are going to be on your fantasy football team someday. You look at Georgia. I think Branch has got some juice. Colby Young had a nice game against Tennessee. Is he ready? Is he a difference maker though? Last time he was down in Tuscaloosa, 5'9" cornerback beat him for a jump ball with the game on the line in the final seconds. He's a junior and get beat by a junior corner and one-on-one. I mean, you can't lose those matchups and call yourself a ball player. So I think
as well as I do in the SEC games are one on the line of scrimmage, and I like Georgia's both their lines better than Alabama's lines, the offensive line and the defensive line. I think that's where this game's going to be won or lost.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to evaluate, the Alabama offensive line. Kirby mentioned, the field conditions at Florida State. You figure, Alabama crossed midfield 7 times. They got 17 points, but, that's first game, new offensive coordinator, bad weather, fired up Seminoles on the road. I think Alabama has not turned the ball over yet, Frank. You talk about mistakes. They haven't turned it over. Georgia's got 4 turnovers. Georgia's going to be missing Ernest Green, the starting right tackle. They got some freshmen over there at right guard and right tackle projected right now to play, or first or second year guys, redshirt, whatever. I'm not ready to say who has the better offensive line. Defensive line, Womack can do a lot of different things. They haven't done a lot with pressure. Georgia really hasn't either. I mean, Georgia only got the Tennessee quarterback one time. He threw for 371 and 4 touchdowns. But before we get to that, the reason why is because they're not getting teams in down and distance. If you don't get Alabama in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, it's going to be hard to get sacked. So, we keep dialing it back. It's going to go where you said, Frank. But who's going to win those 1st and 2nd downs? Because that's going to determine your opportunities to create catastrophic plays or havoc on 3rd down. Or conversely, if Alabama stays ahead of the chains, the opportunity to put the defense and run past conflict, which makes them harder to defend.
Doug?
Good morning, guys. Mike, always great to have you on. I really mean it when I say I consider you one of them. That for some reason, the movie title "Sudden Impact" comes to mind with your work. You brought a little of that north of the Mason-Dixon line spice with your work, and we love it. But you're very fair too, so I just wanted to give you that compliment. Speaking of compliments, the compliment I would give both Alabama and Georgia, these storied programs, which is a little bit of a left-handed compliment, I guess. Again, I'll probably sound like an Auburn guy, but the college football fans in the Deep South, if not the nation, have been for all these decades cheated out of what would have been great regular season games between Alabama and Georgia. And I understand, truth be told, because both programs have been so good most years, that it was probably in their political interest not to play regular season, both their interests, because prior to 2014, you really needed, ideally you go undefeated, but you better not have more than one quality loss. And so as you look back over the times they have played, and Duff will love this one, I don't remember many games, Mike, and love to get your response to this if you've read about it. Although you're what we call here in the South a young feller, look from the looks of it, but Pat Dye didn't even coach at Georgia or Alabama, but Alabama and Georgia were meeting in Tuscaloosa, and famously Pat Dye gave some sly as a fox motivation to the Bulldogs, his alma mater, saying Georgia ain't man enough to run the football. So, the two teams played, and Georgia won. Georgia won because they made more plays that day. But comment on any of those observations I made, Mike, and how you see the run game playing in tomorrow.
Well, you touched on something, and I'm going to take it to another place, and thinking about scheduling, right? And where my mind went was Big Ten, because Big Ten has you don't like to say it, but they have moved ahead of the SEC on the revenue model, and they're making more money off their television contract, and they've won the last 2 national titles. And there's been a lot of careful planning here, and somebody a long time ago that was really smart put the Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of the year. And the reason you backload the schedule like that is because then both these teams have these great records. One of them loses, but they lose to a higher ranked team. They don't drop as far, right? The SEC made a mistake having Tennessee and Florida closer to the start of the season. These rivalry games, in my opinion, these out-of-conference rivalry games, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, I don't know how relevant Kentucky is, but South Carolina, Clemson, forget Kentucky, Louisville, those ought to be at the start of the year. Get that stuff out of the way. If you're still going to play them at all, Georgia fans get pissed off when I say this, but it's crazy that they play Georgia Tech. It makes no sense. A long time ago, LSU got smart and said, we don't need to play Tulane. We don't need to play Tulane. They're at home. Why are we playing Tulane? What do we got to get? Nothing. You got everything to lose and nothing to gain. And Georgia's playing Georgia Tech in a game that has meant absolutely nothing more times than not. And now it's gotten dangerous where Georgia Tech's gotten good, and now they're competing for NIL sponsors in the city of Atlanta. And you have done that by continuing to keep them on your schedule. I know about Trish. Look, it's a dog-eat-dog world, man. Corporate America. You don't take any chances you don't have to. I thought Georgia playing Florida and Jacksonville for years didn't make sense. Now there's going to be a billion-dollar stadium. There's going to be more revenue. Okay, now it makes sense. But how many recruiting weekends did they piss away by playing this game down in Jacksonville where they couldn't have kids in? They were one down on everybody else. That was 12.5% of the recruiting visits they gave up for a premium game. So decisions need to be made with the head and not the heart, because we are in a money game now. We don't have a bowl system where there's 30 teams that finish the year with a winning season anymore. If you don't make that 12-team playoff, you're going to get fired in 3 years. And you're not going to make that money, and you're not going to get those NIL deals. And think about the shoe contracts. Tennessee, Penn State, they're ahead of everybody else with Adidas. You know why? Because Adidas can pay their players money. Nike ain't doing that. So you got to figure that out too. You got to and in Georgia, well, we renegotiated a deal last year, but we're not going to tell you what. Yeah, you're not going to tell us what it is because it's not as good as these new deals. You got to. These are winning points. It's just any businessman will tell you there's several facets that you've got to hit, and you're only as good as your worst one. You can win 7 deals, but you lose one, and you wipe out all your profits.
And going forward, you've got 2 cupcakes. You only got 2 cupcakes left now because of the 9 games.
That's right. And Georgia's still got to drop a team for next year. I mean, we're still waiting. To me, it's a no-brainer. So think about this, and I'll tell you where this is going to go. So Georgia's got 4 non-conference games next year as it stands. Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, Georgia Tech. You can use up a home and home on Georgia Tech, and Louisville home and home. You can't play Louisville home and home now. You can't play those future series, Clemson home and home, Florida State home and home, Ohio State home and home, not with a 12 or a 16-team playoff. You cannot play those games. You've got to go to what I thought was cockamamie a few weeks ago. Oh, Big Ten's got an idea for 24, 28 teams. You know what? Think about it. Now that we're here, that makes sense. Because you can play those games. You can back up the start of the season a week. More teams will get into the playoff. You can manage your teams differently. Does it sound like the NFL? Yes. Does what we see right now look like the NFL in terms of parity and pay? Yes. So go with the model that fits the game. I'm sorry about tradition. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, guys. Money is a factor. And if you want college football to continue to be enough of the revenue train to fund all these other sports, this model ain't going to get it done. You need to expand playoffs. You need to maintain those sexy out-of-conference home and homes. And you can't do that with a 12 or a 16-team playoff. You got to go bigger, or you're going to lose those marquee matchups in the regular season out of conference.
Yeah, and everybody wants to see these games played. I remember not too long ago, Florida State and Miami played their game at the beginning of the season. I mean, the first game of the year, I went to it one time. Unfinished business, they called it, after the 87 game down at the Orange Bowl. And I got to ask you this too. And I wish Doug was back in with us. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. But you hear the term used, Blind Squirrel Sports is using it this morning on a comment to you, a question, physicality. Webster's is adding, I see, 500 plus words to the collegiate dictionary. One of them is dad bod, whatever the hell that is. I'm sure mom jeans is on there too. But is physicality, you being a journalist, Doug, smart with writing, and Frank, all of us, Brendan, is it a word, or is it just a kind of a phrase?
I think it's a word. I think it's a lifestyle in the SEC, man. I mean, look at these guys now. They all get off the bus, and I mean, that fat guy that's going to be good in a year. Yeah, he ain't here. He's somewhere else now.
Right.
You're getting the cut body that's been somewhere else for 2 years. You just got transferred in, and big boy's on the train out of town to whatever next level down school. I mean, it's elite. I mean, all these programs are elite. It's a different level. Now, they may be at different points of their development because a lot of those middle guys, those second teamers, they're starting somewhere else now, Syracuse or Indiana or Purdue or somewhere like that, or Ohio. And Ohio State, they'll just come take your best players.
Yeah.
I said this. I said, you think about this, and we compare apples and oranges all the time, and it's not fair, right? We say, oh, man, if Nick Saban was the head coach, well, let me tell you, what if Nick Saban was the head coach but didn't have Caleb Downs, but didn't have Julian Sam, but didn't have Justice Haynes, that didn't have that center that won the Remington Award, that didn't have Isaiah Bond? Kalen DeBoer is not holding the same hand. Them Kings and Aces are somewhere else now, guys. With Todd Monken was still at Georgia. He would not Todd Monken. Hey, Brock Bowers ain't here anymore, Todd. Ladd McConkey ain't here no more. James Cook ain't here. You give Todd Monken these guys, you think the numbers are going to be? They're not. So you can't compare Will Muschamp, such a genius. Hell, I'm a genius. Give me 5 future first rounders on the D-line. I'll get you a national title. Will Muschamp coaching these guys on, it's different. So we can't make these it's not fair to compare DeBoer to Saban and Monken to Bobo and Schumann to Muschamp, because it's not the same personnel. There's more parity now. And Nick Saban got out because he didn't want to manage it, because he knew he didn't have the money to manage. He didn't have the leverage that Alabama had before NIL. He saw it. I was in Destin sitting there when he said, guys, do we really want to do this? He knew where it was going before it got there. Yep. And so here's where we're at, where, coaches are going to make a difference. That play call, Kirby Smart, a little bit over Josh Heupel. But at the end of the day, it's a field goal kicker missing a kick, man. That game's a coin toss. So, it's going to come down to who has the better players, sort of. It's going to come down to who has the better coaches, sort of. But it's close enough now, just like the NFL, that on any given Saturday, it's just never been more true.
Frank, you and I and Doug, hopefully will be back on with us. We look at a guy like Justice Terry, the big defensive tackle out of Manchester, Georgia. We were all joking. This was a kid last year, Frank, 5-star in the state of Georgia, Manchester, Callaway Gardens over there, Pine Mountain, 35, 40 minutes from Auburn's campus in the state of Georgia. Goes to Texas. That's a guy everybody said, that's the first guy that you get off your bus when you pull up on the road somewhere. He looked like he's 30 years old. You don't see guys like that in Duluth, Minnesota. It is unreal, the physicality. I was being serious. I just don't know if it's in the dictionary, but I know one thing, Mike, this article that you wrote, this is a powerful piece. And Frank, jump back in. Sorry.
Well, physicality can be stenciled on your chest if the big guys that Mike are talking about if the guy's, not chiseled, he's already on his way to Wake Forest. By the way, those guys are not only big and strong, they run 4.7, 4.8 40s. I mean, that's the crazy part of the physicality. It's not the size. I mean, these guys are Adonises if they're taking their craft smart. And why wouldn't they? They're getting paid for it, not only at this level, but the next level. But they get off the bus and they look great, but then they can, be in bed before the lights are out. That's the thing. And recruiting's now coast to coast. If there is a great kid in Minnesota, Kirby can go find him, or, Kelly can go find him. It's wide open. There's no regionality to this thing anymore. And look, if we're going to play the what if Nick Saban game, I want to play. Hell, you want to play the what if after Nick Saban left? What if Nick Saban never shows up at Alabama? You want to see what the trajectory had been like 14 years? Those 6 national champions are mine in Baton Rouge if he never leaves. I'll tell you right now. Alabama was a damn grease fire. So you can't play the what if game. You got to play the cards that are dealt you. And DeBoer is their guy now. And the vitriol and the panty twisting that you saw from the University of Alabama fans after that first game, and now they got to backtrack because actually the Tide's looking pretty damn good again. They're looking like the Tide. That'll show you what a fan base and a program's like. They're all over the board. Good. Yeah. And I don't give it. Not my problem, right?
Yeah. Well, Mike, what Frank just said, it's like once your mind expands from its original size way out here, you win championships. you're never going to revert back comfortably and be okay with 8-4. I had my Ole Miss friends used to tell me, they'd say Auburn would be playing them in Oxford, and they'd say, y'all in Alabama are just cannibals. You eat your own. We're happy with 6-5, 7-4, having a good time in the Grove. I said, wait till you win 11 or 12 games one season. I said, once you eat a steak at Folks Folly or Ruth's Chris, you ain't going to be comfortable with that CK's, $3 cheap steak. And it's just what happens.
Try and find your way to Atlanta once.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, that's the biggest problem we got. Yeah.
Guys, before I got embargoed in the green room, sorry about that. You were talking about scheduling and the anomalies of that. And wouldn't you agree, Mike, that we have, which is sad for a lot of fans in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, we've probably seen the last of Florida, Miami, and Florida FSU. Is that fair?
Well, I don't know how far out those contracts go. I think they'll probably maintain the Florida State rivalry. I would agree with you about Miami. I mean, I think that, some of those rivalry games were taken into consideration with some of the SEC scheduling model, which I don't think is that big of a deal, which 3 opponents, because you play everybody every 2 years. Some of those choices were curious. I mean, I thought Georgia's were appropriate. If you're Tennessee, you probably feel pretty good about getting Kentucky and Vanderbilt every year. And you still got to play Alabama, but they don't play Florida anymore. I mean, that's a tough one to lose. They don't play Georgia anymore. That's a tough one to lose. LSU doesn't play Alabama every year. That's a tough one to lose. But you understand that you want there to be some degree of equalness in the scheduling. Not everybody can have Texas's schedule, but you've got to understand the value of taking Texas. And part of the deal with getting Texas was getting them big TV ratings. I mean, Texas does bring tremendous value when you consider the major metropolitan television markets in the state of Texas. I mean, Dallas-Fort Worth, I believe they're 4. Houston's 4. I mean, 4 or 5, those 2 markets. And, Big Ten's got Chicago. Big Ten's got New York, New Jersey. Big Ten's got L.A. The SEC's biggest major media market is in Texas now. That's just where it's at. Now the ratings in Birmingham and in Atlanta and Memphis, I mean, these are college towns, college cities, I should say. And when you look at those ratings indexes, those cities are up there, elite. So even though the city may not be as big, you get a larger market share. There is value to that. But at the end of the day, part of the deal with taking Texas was, I think, to some degree, I don't want to say helping Texas maintain value, but you don't want to hurt them. It's good news for the SEC if Texas is good and fans are watching, because it's a higher market and it's more revenue for the league. And then guess what? That revenue gets split up and everybody benefits. So that was part of the price of doing business, just like the Big Ten taking USC and UCLA, that Los Angeles market. And, you're seeing Michigan State playing out there at 11 p.m. USC time, and USC comes back to Illinois, and it's a night game. And, boy, that's convenient for USC. But guess what? You're cashing in on that market. So this is a business. And people are going to make, whether it's when they schedule games, who they schedule, what markets it's about money, guys. The days of, oh, man, the tradition and doing it for the kids and the fan. No, man, there's a bottom line here, and it's about turning a profit.
Yeah. Mike, I know you got a busy day. We had a late start, and that is my fault. We'll get it right next time. But let people know how they can follow you and keep up with all your great work, because you have no idea how much it means for all of us. And it's been like, sometimes you have a little air turbulence, but we're staying up in the air. But looking forward already to your next visit.
Well, listen, I like doing you guys' show. There's a lot of passion and knowledge in the room here. A lot of background, a lot of perspective, and people that have seen it from a lot of different angles at a lot of different places. And those are the conversations that I enjoy engaging in, because everybody sitting around the table's got a lot to say and a lot to offer. So, they follow me though. Thank you, Rob, for the pitch there. They follow me on Twitter at Mike Griffith 32. I put up, links to my stories, and AJC.com right now. We got a lot going on there. It's pretty exciting. We got a lot of people joining us there. And you mentioned the Irk Russell story, and had a story about Steve Spurrier talking about Gunnar Stockton, and everybody just kind of held their breath about that. What in the world is Steve Spurrier going to say about? He's got a Heisman vote, and he telling us who his top 2 quarterbacks in the league are. Probably going to upset some people around the league with that. But that's nothing new for the coach. But anyway, that's where y'all can follow me at Mike Griffith 32, and man, I know we're going to have a lot to talk about later in the season. I look forward to visiting with you guys again. Like I said, this is great. So much fun, guys. Frank,
Mike, quickly. So it sounded like you may lean slightly Georgia's way tomorrow for different reasons.
I don't know. I haven't quite figured out how Georgia's going to stop two great wide receivers and a quarterback. But at the same time, Sanford Stadium is really underrated, and largely because they play their marquee game at a neutral site. So, but when Sanford Stadium has needed to be a factor against Notre Dame in 2019, 6 false starts, against Tennessee in 2022, 5 false starts, the stadium's going to be a factor. The question is, can Georgia get to Ty? Can Georgia or the Sanford Stadium crowd get in Ty Simpson's head? I think that's playing.
He's really playing well right now, Simpson.
Really is.
Yeah, Mike, have a great weekend, a blessed weekend, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you. Have a good weekend.
Guys, that's a great perspective. And I know, I'm learning a lot about technology today. And anything that happens on here that goes wrong is always my fault. I promise you, because Brendan is doing magic behind the scenes. Guys, I'm with Mike. Both of y'all, the line of questions that comes from y'all is like a brilliant attorney in court. And that's what, when I was talking to Mike last night about that article about Irk Russell in Georgia in 76, we remember that game. It was almost 50 years ago. That was, they shut down and shut out Bryant's wishbone in 76. And I went to the Liberty Bowl, later that season in December. It was 9 degrees, and was on the field. And Alabama won 38-6 in Memphis against UCLA. And the Alabama players came out in the preseason warmups and cut off T-shirts to intimidate UCLA, going like, this ain't nothing to us. And UCLA was supposed to just wipe the field with them. And after the game, I was on the field and I got to go down and meet Coach Bryant and Sam Bailey through my dad. And he was smoking on a cigarette. Mike gets it. He may be from north of the Mason-Dixon line, but man, he gets it. And folks, follow him. And Doug, your writing, I got to give you credit in the dose, man. And I got to ask you, you were not on when I asked the term, is physicality, I know Webster's has added 500 words today. Is that technically a word in the English language, or is it just a phrase in the nomenclature?
I don't, you can get away with it. And of course it's the English language and words are a dynamic, evolving thing. So I'm always hesitant to permanently declare a word, not legit. But I think it's improper use, physicality, just like the one that drives me crazy, and it's technically acceptable, but I hate it, is that Saban does this. A lot of coaches call it resiliency. It's resilience. And that's tiny. Who cares? I'm
matters.
Major. So I care, but you let those things slide because people are otherwise making a great analytical point normally.
Doug, they're important, Doug, because if you saw that on a resume, that would probably do that person in.
Yeah, again, you can say resiliency. It's in Webster's. I just don't like that usage. But this is not a podcast about grammar and
I know.
And diction.
By the way, Rob, I do have to let you know, I was a 15-year-old boy and watching the Sugar Bowl with those junkyard dogs of Irk Russell.
Yeah.
Play against Tony Dorsett and Pitt in that Sugar Bowl. I can remember yesterday. I think, and look, I'm good friends with Buck Ballou here in Atlanta. Yep. And Buck Ballou has been on a campaign for 20 years to get Irk Russell into the College Football Hall of Fame. And he should go into the College Football Hall of Fame. Anybody that watched his defenses all those years, defensive coordinator, the effect that he had. And if you ask any Georgia player from those years, it was almost like watching Buddy Ryan and his defense with Ditka and the 86 Bears. There was as much love and respect and loyalty on the defense side for their coordinator that there was for McMahon and Walter Payton for Ditka on the offensive side.
Yeah, and it was. It only has. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm going to be getting short on time. Sorry to walk on you. I just want to circle back to and we didn't really talk about Auburn A&M, which is fine because most all the pundits are picking A&M, and I think that makes me feel even better about Auburn having a shot. Not that I think they will win, but I think it'll be competitive and a little bit high scoring. I was reminded of Dave Bartu's quantitative geek out about open days. A&M was open last week after playing that big game, winning over Notre Dame late despite a missed holding call. And Auburn's very familiar with missed holding calls and called holding calls, phantom holding calls. So, but about Alabama, Georgia, seems to me both teams, for all their confidence and moxie, with good reason, the players have got, both come into this game with a little bit of anxiety. At least the fans feel that. With Alabama, was this a mirage the last two games because of quality of opponent, and it's in Bryant-Denny? How will we do when we go on the road, not just against anybody, but against his recently dominant team in the trenches? Is Ty Simpson for real? He sure looks like it, throwing for nearly 90%, I read. Again, that's the last two games. And if you're Georgia, is there a curse, a little voodoo going on with having such a hard time beating Alabama, although they did it in a national title game? And also, what does it mean that a vaunted Kirby Smart defense got lit up to that degree by Josh Heupel in Tennessee? So I think both early on, I think the coaches would love to make their opponent feel that anxiety by having those things happen. So you look for Georgia to really come after Simpson, try to make him feel those butterflies again from the first game. And if you're Alabama, you're going to try to light them up through the air. I suspect they'll run the ball, but if Alabama can hit them hard through the air, the worries from that Tennessee game come back. You get what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah. And look at the stats on Ty Simpson. I think he's only had 5 drops the last 2 games. But again, against La Monroe and Wisconsin, five incomplete passes. 3 of them were drops. So, Frank, looking and based on what Doug just said, I'm picking Alabama to win the game for what that's worth.
Wouldn't shock me.
I just think I like their edge rushers better than I like Georgia's. And I do like Ryan Williams and Bernard, and the way Ty Simpson, but again, he's the one guy on Alabama's team against Florida State that never looked like he had, mailed it in. He's a coach's son. That's something.
I want to back up what Doug just said, and I think it was salient. I think anxiety is going to play a big part in this game, Rob, because the anxiety, the bugaboo that Georgia has. And by the way, if y'all are thinking about breaking out the black jerseys, don't. Go burn them. Go behind Athens General and put those in a dumpster and catch them on fire. Because the last time I think y'all wore them, I think Alabama scored like 38-0. No, I think the anxiety of Alabama worrying that Florida State game was the rule and not the exception is going to have them worried. And Georgia has in the back of their mind the voodoo that Doug mentioned that Alabama has on them. I'm going to make a comment. I think the first team to get a double-digit win in this game is going to go on to win the ball game. I like
Alabama.
I don't think you're going to see a Georgia-Tennessee type comeback. I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see that whatever team goes out ahead, I think Doug is right. That other team is going to press because they got those ghosts in the back of their head. I think that does play a part in this game.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety, the most important 6 inches is between your ears. If you're playing tight, you're going to have problems. And I know Brad Bellamy's going to jump on here shortly. I'm not sure if he's still in Athens, Greece, not Athens, Georgia, but we'll see if we can get him in. But Doug, looking at these other games, and we hadn't talked about all of them. You mentioned A&M and Auburn. Tennessee goes on the road to play Mississippi State. We've seen this before. State's 4-0. Hadn't played a conference game yet. What happens in Starkville tomorrow at 2:30?
I'll give a quick shot at it. I think most analysts and fans are going to look at that, and they'll see the firepower Tennessee brought against a very good Georgia defense. Not a great defense, but above average. And they'll say, well, Mississippi State won't be able to stay with them. But there's something tricky about Starkville. People always like to say the cowbells, and that's a factor. It should be prohibited, but you know how the SEC goes. But I think Lebby is turning the corner with them. That win over Arizona State was bigger than maybe it got credit for. So I think it can be competitive, but I don't think if it gets into the mid to high 30s, I'm not sure State can hang with that kind of shootout.
I agree
Frank?
with you, and I think the game that I'm really interested in is seeing what you guys do after getting screwed in Oklahoma. I can say it. I'm impartial. That was a jam job. What you guys do against Texas A&M, I think, is going to be incredible. Jackson Arnold looked to me like just as tough as a $3 steak. It's a shame that game, in essence, got taken away from that kid, because I think he played well enough to win that game. So we haven't even touched on a very interesting game, LSU Ole Miss, yet.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
It might be the marquee game when the dust settles.
That's how many games we've got that are on the slate. I was going to go to Oxford, but when I saw that all the other great action that we've got lined up, I'm going to be up in my theater with 4 TVs going. I just said, this is one that I'm staying. I'm not going.
Let me tell you what a serial killer Lane Kiffin is, notwithstanding this warm, sweet, kind choir boy persona that we were sold in the documentary. And I'm proud of Lane for, making good choices, especially kind of cleaning up what he said was an unhelpful habit with the booze. But what coach would give his blessing to his daughter, Landry, dating a star linebacker at LSU to distract them? Seriously, Lane, have you no shame, Lane Kiffin?
It is an interesting story. The Weeks brothers, I told Frank before the show today, they're going to have their own TV show. And you said they reminded you of the Hanson brothers, the hockey guys, but they're like that.
Well, I don't know about the timing of this. There's a lot of head games that are being played. I don't know who's doing who, and I mean that with double entendre. But no, I think it's funny. I think it's your typical LSU Ole Miss shenanigans on. I mean, all that's missing is Halloween and Billy Cannon running the ball back. I think it's hilarious. I think Lane Kiffin has matured like a fine wine. If I was an Ole Miss fan, I would thank my lucky stars that he's in their program. I'm envious of him. I think he has just enough moxie to pull off those tweets and posts, but he doesn't delve in kind of Trump style with his tweeting at all hours of the night anymore. And I think that has matured him into being a not only a great coach, but a great manager of that Ole Miss program.
Duff, I'm sorry I walked on you, Duff. I got to go in a minute, but listen, and I cleared this with my friend Duff. By the way, Duff, we're back next year, Auburn, LSU, in Jordan Hare. You got to come to Lake Martin, you and Rob both. But I love it. I'm picking Ole Miss in this one in a high-scoring affair, and the fact that it will be high-scoring is why I think they have a chance to shock. I wouldn't say shock, but to pull one off against LSU. But here's the good part, Duff. I think that becomes a wake-up call for the LSU Tigers, and they go on to run the table regular season. My Bama friends aren't going to like that prediction, but I just think that this thing sets up to give Ole Miss a big day. And if I'm wrong, then it will look like LSU might just be for real.
Over 30, we lose. Under 30, we win.
I think that's a good take. Look, I mean, Doug, very good take. And Brad Bellamy joins us now, back from Athens, Greece. I hope you had some spanakopita and some good Greek food.
So many euros,
there.
Rob. So many euros.
So many, as they say down in LA. I like one of them gyros,
Exactly.
them gyros. It's a euro. But man, welcome back. We were hoping to get you last week. We were going to have Frank from Cancun, you from Athens, Greece, maybe from the Acropolis, live from the, could you imagine, Brent Musburger, you are looking live at the Acropolis here in Athens, Greece, as the Auburn Tigers and the Tennessee Volunteers go head to head in this big key matchup. All right, first off, tell them right now, I'm out at a wedding party with my son and his girlfriend, and she's going, I want to get a Bronco. And I said, well, Brad Bellamy, the general manager at Landers Ford, is in Athens because she wanted to go on Sunday. And I said, don't do that. Wait till he gets back. And they're not open on Sunday because the day means more than the dollar.
Right.
And so they're open every other day of the week. But I gave her your number, and she wants one of those robin egg blue Broncos. But tell people quickly, and then we're going to get to some picks. I know you love to do that, and Frank does too, because it is college football season. It's 62 degrees this morning. It's actually cold enough to wear possibly a sweatshirt. But anyway, Landers, light it up.
All right, man. Thanks, Rob. Good morning, Frank. Good to see you too. Big things happening this weekend. Carterville Education Foundation, Landers Ford works with the Carterville Police Department. We have a huge car show at Central Church. So classic car show, 200 to 250 vehicles are out there. Really low expense to put your vehicle in the show, $25. Bring your car. But I'll be out there all day tomorrow, and love to have more folks come out, and all the money goes to support Carterville Education Foundation. What that does is gives grants to teachers. So it helps fund different programs and initiatives that they're trying to do amongst all the different schools in the Carterville School District. So come out, support that. Stop by the store and buy a vehicle, or get your vehicle serviced while you're here. Huge program right now. Buy 3 tires, get 1 free. Also $20 works rebate. So anybody that does a works package, they get a $20 rebate off of that program. That goes through Tuesday. So come on out, check us out at Landers. We still got a few golf tournament units left. All those priced at X Plan, and had a really, really strong month last month, and like the momentum we got going right now. So come on out, and let's see what we can do to help take care of your needs. And I want to hear from your girl over there, Rob, because I hadn't heard from her yet. So we'll get her in the Rock Tech Blue.
Well, I told her you wouldn't be back till this Monday, so you're back earlier. So that I'll tell them today. But another thing too is that when Frank, I can tell you this, and everybody watching, and there's thousands of people watching. We're so blessed. I've never seen a dealership that has done more in the Mid-South, in the area where they are. Look at the stadiums, what you're doing for the teachers. As Chuck Oliver says, that's not nothing. Okay, that's a big deal. So thank you so much, Landers Ford. So, and buddy, we've been talking football. We got games all weekend. Technically today it's been kind of wild, but we're making it work. We've got 4 engines. We're keeping this plane afloat. Frank, and everybody that's picking the games, Arkansas, and I'm going to ask you, Brad, to start with this. Arkansas and Notre Dame. Who do you like in this game? Who's got more to lose and who's got more to fight for?
I mean, Pittman's got a job to fight for right now. I think if he loses this game, that seat gets a little bit hotter. We had the conversation. If you remember, Greg McElroy said it. I could see Arkansas losing to Memphis and beat Notre Dame, and I think there's a legitimate chance of that. I haven't seen a ton out of Notre Dame that makes me think that they're anything spectacular, but they've had a tough schedule. So, if I was going to go one way or another on that one, I think I probably would go Notre Dame. Arkansas, man, they blew a big lead against Memphis. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to watch much of the game. I was on a cruise ship in Santorini, but was really happy when I saw the ESPN app update and that fumble happened. But man, I think I'd take Notre Dame here with the 4.5 points, but I could easily see Arkansas winning this game. I mean, they do have a lot to play for. One of the bigger non-conference games they've had, at home in a long time. And so, they need the win big time. So that would be my thoughts on that one.
Yeah. And Frank, another big one that no one's talking about right now because we're in the South, but Oregon travels to Penn State. I mean, I don't know if you like that one, Frank. Who do you like in that one?
Well, again, I don't really like anybody in that one. I'm staying away from that one. A night out in Penn State, but I think Oregon has the talent to beat them. So if you're asking me what I would do, I'd stay away, but because I want to give a pick, I do like Notre Dame. I don't like them this year, but I like them in this game because Arkansas has found a way to lose 2 careless ball games. And when you lose careless ball games, it means you're not getting focus from your team. There's no way they should have lost that game last week. Horrible ball control for that late fumble. So I like Notre Dame giving up the points, but I would stay away from that Big Ten tilt. I think it could go either way. I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah. Brad, you look at the landscape in college football. Here's another game nobody's really talking about. Last year when South Carolina went on the road and tore up Brad White, the defensive coordinator at at Kentucky, they tore him up like 31-6. Now Kentucky comes and plays in Columbia. South Carolina's lost 2 straight. Lenora Sellers, athletically, physically, this guy has about everything on the checklist that you want. What happens in Columbia tomorrow? Because both teams are, neither team's great.
I mean, just real quick, I think South Carolina's going to turn it around against Kentucky. Kentucky's not very good. The only team that they've been good against over the last couple of years has been Ole Miss. I like South Carolina to turn it around this week.
Yeah.
I like Vandy big against Utah State. If Chambliss plays for Ole Miss, I like Ole Miss in that game. I really think that he is a phenomenal quarterback, and he was great at Ferris State. People do not pay enough attention to Division II football, but there are some amazing programs out there, and the way he led that team and how they just ran through the playoffs, he's a really, really good quarterback, and Kiffin's got a gold mine there. And I think if he plays and he starts, that they win that ball game. Quack, quack, Oregon all the way. Penn State cannot beat anybody that they're not supposed to beat. Oregon is that team this year that they're gonna beat Penn State. James Franklin can't get it done against teams that matter. He wins against teams that don't, lose against teams that do. And so until he turns that around, give me Oregon, whiteout or not, they're gonna win that game.
Frank, is in a good betting term I learned a long time ago, the trend is your friend. And I'm with Brad. Show me. Missouri's motto, the show me state. I don't ever see it. Do you think what other games really jump out at you? Because there's so many good ones this weekend. We've talked a lot about Georgia and Alabama, but Tennessee, Mississippi State. Anything else that other than what Doug said about that?
And guys, I don't want to be boring, but I got to tell you, sometimes, and Brad will tell you, sometimes the best bet is the bet you don't make. I got to be honest with you. I don't like a lot this week. The tough slate. When I went down, I like to try and go down once the lines first come out, and then I'll go back, Tuesday or Wednesday and see if the lines move, see if I can pick up anything. Man, I think this is an absolute tough slate. If I had a pick, I would bet Ole Miss. And look, I'm an LSU guy. I do think Ole Miss has us in a good spot. They always play us tough at Vaught-Hemingway. I think if it's a high-scoring game, I do think we lose it. If our defense comes to play and we're in the 20s, I think we got a shot to win it. Going back to Lenora Sellers, South Carolina is an enigma. I mean, I really thought they were going to play much better early on. I know he was hurt. They better get right. They better play Kentucky well, because then they got to come to Death Valley, and we have a bye before that. And again, with all due respect to Dave Bartu and the open effect, they're going to have a tough game coming into Tiger Stadium. We had that battle last year. So I think, to Brad's point, South Carolina has to win this game. And I think they have to win it significantly. So if I were to do that, I would probably bet South Carolina. I think Tennessee rolls. I think Mississippi State's a great story, but they're not there yet. And if I had to put a 3-team parlay together, guys, I'm going away from Bama. I think Georgia wins the ball game.
I agree, Frank. I think until it's kind of the same thing with Franklin and Penn State. Until DeBoer shows that he can show up and his team can show up for a road game, outside of LSU, I mean, talk about an enigma. That's it. Last year's LSU game is the only game where he had a team show up and on the road. And I don't like Alabama this weekend either. I that's a game that it's either going to be it's either going to be on the line, or I think it's a 14-point game. I mean, they've looked so bad on the road and been completely out of sorts, penalties galore. I agree with Tennessee too. I think Aguiar's been really good for them. And I think that reality sets in Mississippi State this weekend that Tennessee, they come out and they have a really good game. There's some games I like that aren't on the SEC though. I like Memphis a lot at Florida Atlantic. They're under 2 touchdowns, and I think Memphis football team right now has a lot riding for it. So tonight's slate, I like Florida State. I think they're the real deal. I like Houston at Oregon State. Oregon State's absolutely terrible. And all that to say, if I would have been able to say anything about last night's game, I couldn't believe Army was only a 3.5-point underdog. And man, was I wrong. They cannot execute a play. Did y'all watch that game at all last night?
I watched the pros.
It was awful.
It
was awful.
Yeah, and y'all are making so many salient points. And after this show, I'm going to be going on the Panhandle show with Buddy Martin on this channel. And by the way, Brad, next Friday, I was texting with Memphis coach Ryan Silverfield. He's going to join us next week, beginning of the show. And he said, as you know, our schedules are tight. And I'm like, man, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bill Hardgrave, my friend, the president at the University of Memphis. That's the reason that's happening because, man, he's a busy man. But you know what? And by the way, people are coming out looking at vehicles this weekend. You got a lot of color TVs out there in the showroom at Landers Ford, don't you?
Do.
And popcorn. Man, okay.
We'll have popcorn. We'll have Ryder Cup on one TV. We'll have 2 TVs with college football. So, I mean, we got it all here at Landers, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
And Brad, my red, white, and blue. I got my red, white, and blue Tour Championship hat on from a couple years ago, and I got my USA blue, baby. USA.
That's
USA.
Right. Coach O. USA. Come on now. Let's go to USA.
You saw Coach O with.
I saw he was
Hey,
great.
by the way, Brad, I do want to let you know. Go out right now. The last 2 days in baseball, I'm 8-0-1 on my picks in baseball. I'm on a hot streak in baseball because, as you know, in the last game of the season, Major League Baseball, you have teams that are still vying, and you've got other teams that are already packed their bags, waiting to go to Cabo. So, and my tie was the last game last night, the Mariners. I needed it to go over. It was on 7 runs, had men on first and second with 2 outs, and I got a little slap single. So I even pushed my last one. So go out and take a look at some of those spreads. They're not unreal.
Text your friend.
Okay, you got it. I'll post
and hey, listen locally on Sports 56. I do Landers Locks every week with Stats Norsworthy on their broadcast. And last week, 3-0 in NFL, 2-2 in college. For the year on the NFL, I'm 5-1, and on college right now, I'm 10-4. So we're having a good little run.
We just thinks the living hell out of us.
Well, you know what? And Brad, we had Coach Mac Browne on, and again, guys, Landers Ford, what they do for the Touchdown Club. We had Mac Browne speak to the Touchdown Club a couple of weeks ago. We had him on the show last Friday. I think, Frank, you would agree, Brendan, Doug, all of us watching, it was one of the best shows ever. That man was absolutely on point. He just nailed it. And I tell you what, the passion, the TV ratings for college football, football is everywhere you look. You look at Indiana, they're talking about the traffic, the nightmare, the tailgating since Kurt Cignetti got there. It started the moment he was introduced at halftime of an Indiana basketball game when he was introduced as the coach. You know what he said? In front of everybody, he said, Purdue sucks, and so does Michigan and Ohio State. And he goes, I said it, I'm standing by it.
Notre Dame
Hey, look, what we can appreciate in the Mid-South, you know, Brad, growing up here at the Mid-South Coliseum, is Monday night wrestling. We've seen a few guys get banged over the head with a chair, loser leaves town match, you know, all that stuff. College football is thriving, but the problem with the NIL and the portal, free market's going to work it out. You know that, Brad, being in business. I do it. You know it, Frank. Bottom line is people are watching the games, and there's more people than ever. We think it was so great 50 years ago. The crowds were nothing compared to what they are today. So if you want to buy into the negative narrative, that's on you. Success is a choice. You got to make the choice to be successful and find excuses to win. Just like I was told, the best advice by Henry B. said, it ain't the doing in life that's so bad, Rob Jr. It's the dreading. Get out and see Brad Bellamy. You want to get a new truck? Go see Brad. He'll walk you through it. You said 8 hours sometimes with people. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes. So awesome stuff as we about wrap up. But go ahead,
And
Frank.
both of our businesses are helped by this drop in interest rates. It's going to be huge for Brad's business, my business in real estate. We got 2 more drops coming. I think we're going to get probably 2 more in the next year. It's going to be huge. We're going to be rolling.
Yeah.
By the way, to your point about how awesome college football is, at the Ole Miss LSU game in the Grove, and believe me, the eye candy in the Grove is worth driving over from Big Canoe. But I got to tell you, college football was better than LSU football this weekend for me. College football trumped LSU football because of the slate of games. That's why I said it's so hard to pick them. They're going to be such great games.
Yeah, it is. Look, we've run out of time, but Brad Bellamy, LandersFordMemphis.com. Thank you so much. And we've got to, and Brendan is going to get with you, Frank, after this. But let me say something about Hewlett and Dunn, right down the street from Landers Ford in Collierville, on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Around Christmas, after Thanksgiving, they're open on Sundays through Christmas. But the barber, the Filson, the boots, the men's and women's clothing coming in every day at Hewlett and Dunn. Great people to work with. Charles Hall, Raven, Carpenter, J.M. Huffman, everybody there. They will help you, and you will find the best-looking clothes, boots, hats, anything you want from the best. Also, Rumble Boxing Gym, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. How you fight is how you live. And the Lights Out Gummies, people, order them. We are going to always promote them. They've got the Lights Out. You can order with the QR code, 25% off. Use promo code Sidelines. It's hempforpros.com. Easy to find, but Dave Bartu hopefully be back on with us Monday. He's been out elk hunting all week. So, buddy, we're about to do a show here in a few minutes, the Panhandle Show on this channel. It's going to be fun. So stay tuned. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Most often we see
and the Gator Club show, just so you know, we'll see you and Franz Beard. So
yep, it's going to be fun. And look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. Find ways to share your success with others. We'll see you Monday, but come right back. We'll be on the Panhandle Gator Show in just a moment.
Thanks, Rob.
You bet.
I bet you thought we weren't going to make it tonight. We didn't think we would either, but we're here. We have a few challenges. Tony Barnhart is our guest. We're going to open the show, and his face won't show on the video, and you won't see him talking, but he's talking, and that's him. So stand by. We're going to have a really good discussion tonight about the new schedule. Maybe Tony can make some sense of it because it's confusing. We'll talk about who's hot and who's not in the SEC, and also what's going on in the world of coach changing. A lot of that going on. All coming to you tonight on the program. Tony Barnhart will be joined shortly by Franz Beard and also Lauren Meadows tonight on the program. So stay tuned. Don't just ignore the black box. It is what it is. And sometimes technology just won't let you get it done that way. But we are going to get it done tonight. Stand by with Tony Barnhart.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. We don't have the traditional look tonight because that black box down below was supposed to be Tony, and he's not there, but he's on the audio, and his picture is on the top right. And I'll say good evening, my good friend, Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart. He's not retired yet, thank goodness. How you doing, Tony?
I'm good, buddy. You know, we've been warming up for this week for several several weeks now. Now it's time to go. It's go time, and we got a good list of games this weekend.
It is a great weekend. It's also a great weekend for the Ryder Cup. I'll be flipping back and forth since Florida didn't have a game Saturday. But I need you to take us by the hand and walk us through a few things because, as I said in my pre-seed, some people might say that they're dumping on tradition and rivalries. Others say they've got more competitive balance. The new schedule came out this week. We saw who the permanent so-called our opponents are for the next 4 years. Just give me your overall assessment, and we'll start talking about it. And if people want to pick it apart, jump on and do that. But it's certainly a different look than many of us expect.
Well, it's a different look, but this is something we've been talking about for 5-6 years now, and it was always going to look this way. The key is you can't preserve all the rivalries. You can't do it, but what you can do is give you the opportunity to protect one or two, if you're lucky, three. And that's basically what, let's take Georgia. I mean, we knew that Florida would be Georgia's number one rival. Then after that, Georgia won at Auburn. That's a game that's been played since 1892. And the other would just sort of float, and it ended up being South Carolina, which kind of makes sense because that's, as they say, that is a contiguous state. So obviously I hate it that LSU and Alabama won't play every year.
And Florida.
But the good thing is, under the old scheduling system, if you didn't play anybody, you would go 8-10 years without playing somebody. Under this system, you will play everybody. Every 2 years, you'll play everybody. And every 4 years, you'll play everybody home and away. So I like it. I think we get more quality games. I was hoping above hope that Florida and Auburn would come back, but I didn't see it. That's one of my favorite games.
Florida Auburn is one of my all-time favorites. Used to be the third biggest rival in the schedule before Florida State got good and all that. But that was a big game, and we had some fantastic history between the two schools. As those of us who follow football close, and you do, you help write it. The games like Spurrier kicking the field goal to win the Heisman against Auburn. I think that's one where Gus Year out got a fumble in midair and went back 99 yards, as I recall. John Reeves threw 9 interceptions up at Auburn. There's many things. We know a lot of great games were played, and I think the fans were very compatible. Auburn and Florida fans seem to get along pretty well. But I can also see, from the front office standpoint, the competitive balance. And here's the other thing. Florida now has Kentucky and South Carolina, and they don't have to play Tennessee and LSU. That's a little bit of relief right there for the team that's had the worst schedule in the last 2 years of anybody in the country, hardest. And as much as I'm against that, the fact remains is that I do see competitive balance. But I'm just enough of an old diehard to say the LSU-Florida rivalry was really starting to get good now in recent years. The thrown shoe and all the things that happened. And who could ever want a better rivalry than Tennessee-Florida? But times change, things change. I don't know how the fans take it or what they think. What is your take on that?
I think the fans are going to love it because the schedule is now set for the next 4 years. And if you want to make plans, you can do it. You can do it right now. And look, but everybody knew going in that everybody was going to get their top 2 rivals. Okay, some might get 3, but take Alabama for instance. Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee were no-brainers. And everybody said, well, why don't you take LSU? Well, guess what? Alabama didn't want to play LSU too. You weren't going to give somebody. That was the idea all along. You were not going to give somebody 3 really top-tier games. You give them 2. The 2 that they wanted, but you weren't going to give them 3.
Yeah, that's a lot. And there are going to be some anomalies. We know there always one with Oklahoma and Ole Miss.
Yeah, you knew some of those would pop up like, what? It was. Yep.
But I know I'd hate to be the person making this game. Here's the good news. If you miss them this year, you get them next year.
That's right.
Because you'll play all 16 over 2 years, right?
Right. And so all of these rivalries that we were talking about, Florida, Auburn, all these great, whatever, love, at least now they'll be played every other year. Okay.
That's true.
They're on the schedule. And so they'll take care of that. And that's much better than what we had. Buddy, this whole system is much the system that we had when we had divisional play in the conference. I know why they had to do it, because they were getting divisions sort of cranked up. But now, well, here's my favorite example. Texas A&M joined the Southeastern Conference in 2012, and now it's 2025. Texas A&M Georgia has yet to go to College Station, Texas, and Texas A&M has been, because only one team rotated every year. Now every year, six teams rotate on, six teams rotate off, and that happens every other year. And I just think we've got more really good games.
Well, over the long period of time, but it is a bit of a withdrawal to think about not having some games. Can you imagine if they had to pull Florida, Georgia? I mean, that couldn't happen.
That's why you put them in. Hey, is that your top rival? Okay, you're going to get your top, and you're going to get your top two. Probably won't get your top three.
Who do you think it impacted the most?
I don't know. I think it impacts everybody. I mean, now if you're trying to build your program, maybe that's not the best way to do it. But again, I just think it's going to work out. I really do.
All right, let's talk about coaches. Time of year when, boy, the changes are coming early this day and time. And we all know what's going on. We've seen firings already. We're going to see more. The one everybody's talking about down here, of course, guess what, is Billy Napier. Some people are still mystified how he still has a job. Urban Meyer says it's because he's got a big buyout. And I had Urban on a couple of weeks ago. We talked about that, not about him specifically, but about money. Mm-hmm. And he said, listen, buddy, I've talked to a couple of associate ADs who told me, and he said that we've seen the end of the big buyouts and the big NIL deals and the big facilities, big facility thing. Remember when facilities was a big deal?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
The money's going to the players.
Yes. And so he cast doubt, and I saw several stories today where they predicted, and they quoted Urban as saying that, it's not going to happen, that Billy won't, that Billy won't lose his job. Now, I think if we took a poll right now, I don't know this. I would say if you had to take a vote, core vote on what to do about Billy, he'd probably be fired. And the reason being not just that their record, which is terrible, 1-3, is the manner in which the offense is played, and the mistakes they keep making about having the wrong number of men on the field, and the play call. People seem to be absolutely freaking out now. They're sick of it, the play call. They think it's conservative. They don't like his, and there has been some spotty play call. There's been also some terrible execution.
All those well-known play callers in the stands are. You got people who've called how many plays in their lives?
Yeah,
none. Yeah. Well, listen, Coach Spurrier always said there's three things that a man is convinced he can absolutely do, and that's do a barbecue, drive a race car, and call ball plays. To answer your question, buddy, I think if you made a change, if you had to make a decision today, you keep him. And but we'll see when it gets to the end. How is it a good finish? Is it a bad finish? Do they look like? I will say this: the thing you just pointed out, having too many men on the field, that's bad coaching. And that is unforgivable to have mistakes like that.
Especially when you got 50, 60 coaches.
Yeah.
And people think there's too much excess, if that's a right way to say it. There's excess there, coaches, facilities, money, whatever, and you still can't get it right. And you got a mulligan last year because basically what I'm told by those who know is that at the end of the year, before they went on their 4-game run, that Scott Strickland talked to Billy and said, we're going to have to make change the offensive coordinator. And Billy said, okay. And he told recruits that they were going to get a new offensive coordinator. And then at the end of the year, when he won those games and pulled out the bowl game, he changed his mind. He didn't want to give the call. And he won't name an offensive coordinator. And even if he does, it doesn't matter because his offensive coordinator is an offensive line coach, technically speaking. And he keeps playing. And the thing about Billy is he won't answer the questions. He won't deal with the directness of what is wrong. Keep asking him why. And someone told me a long time ago who would know, who's a pretty smart guy, I said something about his press conferences being sort of non sequiturs, nothing that made any sense. He never seemed to address the writers or the people there. He's done better this year. And he never said anything. And this person said to me, who knows him and knows the principle I'm going to talk about, he said, well, how did Nick Saban do it? And that's exactly how Nick Saban does it, but he's not Nick Saban.
You ain't Nick Saban there, Bo.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'll say Mike Griffith, who says some ridiculous things sometimes just to annoy people. He said when he was hired, he said, going to get his Nick Saban starter kit and come to Florida. So look, I don't think Florida fans would like to fire their coach. I mean, the idea that they got to start over again, Tony, we're not getting any younger here, buddy. And this thing is just
that is true.
Yeah.
But you got to have the next part of that sentence, buddy, is okay. Who you going to get?
All right, I want you to help me on this.
Okay.
I got a scenario I'll tell you about mine, but you be the guy. You're the AD, and you're the guy who's going to have to make that decision. Help me out.
Oh, you mean names somebody?
I'll start. Okay.
Give me some names and I'll tell you who I like.
Well, all right. Let me start the scenario first. And I don't really have that many names, but I've been told that a lot of the money people, by one of the money people, want Urban Meyer. I know Urban pretty well. I have him on the show probably once, twice a month, depending. We never talked directly about this because I think it's been a non-starter, So I think the latest is throw a bunch of money and give him a pot of NIL money and go get him for a couple of years, and then make the change, stop the bleeding, and then let him bring in the coach. That's one scenario. Okay. The second one was Lane Kiffin's the guy. He's the guy most everybody wants. It's said that supposedly last year they were going to do that, and Strickland stood up to the money people and said, no, we're not bringing Lane Kiffin in here. Okay? I don't know if you've seen that particular this thing on TV last night with Kiffin or none.
I saw it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to that in a minute. What's going on here? Well, Fran's Beard hadn't got this link. Yeah. So give me your comments about the Kiffin piece and what you thought of it and your evaluation.
First of all, I will say if you watched that ESPN special, done very well by Ryan McGee.
Yes.
Lane is in first of all, I've watched Lane grow up over the last 8 or 10 years. He's come so far. That's number one. Now he's got a great program for Ole Miss to win 10 games, 3 out of 4 seasons. Ole Miss, as great tradition as they have, other than some of the Vaught teams, they haven't had that kind of consistency. Right. But he loves Ole Miss. And why does he love Ole Miss? Because they leave him alone and let him do what he wants to do. They don't mess with him. They know they're lucky to have him. And see, my question is, why would you leave a place like Ole Miss? I've got a new term, buddy, that I'm using. I call it the crazy level of college football. Okay. There's college football, and then there's the crazy level of college football, where there's more money that you can shake a stick at. And I think Lane's in a great situation. And by the way, he's got a really good team this year. And I'm kind of anxious to see some of those games. So I don't see Lane trading what he has for the craziness of the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee folks in the world. Could be wrong, but that documentary from Ryan McGee gave a lot of insight of how going to Ole Miss has matured him and given his family a place where they can feel comfortable.
There was one scene in particular that really struck me, and I've said this. I'm on record as saying I think he's a man who's happy when you get to that station in life, and all the thing about not drinking and being back with his family, all that sort of stuff, is really been impressive. And then watching the scene of them at the dinner table last night with his ex-wife and his kids all being there, it looked like a big happy family. He looked really content.
All right.
And I'm saying, why would you want to go leave this, right?
Well, one of the things he says in the documentary, he says, I'm the guy who wanted his statue out front, like all these other coaches. That was my goal. He said, now it doesn't mean you figure out later in life, as we have, buddy, what things really mean to you, what's really important in your life. Mm-hmm. And Lane just looks like a guy, he's figured out what's important to him.
Yes, he has. And he looks like a guy. So I don't know the situation that well, but to finish up the scenarios, we say good evening to Franz Beard. Say hi to Tony, the picture of Tony.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
He can't see you, I don't think. But anyway, so just to finish this.
I still look good, even though my live photo's not there. Buddy found a picture where I look good. So that's all that matters.
You look 10 years younger, by the way. Might have been 20.
Bless you, all right.
Yeah, so anyway, just to get back to this particular scenario, and Franz can offer up his opinions. As I said, I know the money people now are wanting Urban Meyer. I've heard it confirmed to me by people who are the money. That's the guy they want to go after. I don't think Urban will take it. That's my opinion. No. I've been wrong before. And then we got Lane Kiffin is the hot candidate, the favorite son, the guy they want. Looking at a guy like him at that dinner table, he looks like he's very, very, very happy and content. And then I think after that, your bailout candidate is Eli Drinkwitz, who I didn't like before, but I'm starting to get like more and more.
That guy's a good coach. I mean, they won 11 games 2 years ago, 10 games last year. And they can't get a sniff. Nobody will talk about them, and that's why Eli Drinkwitz keeps raising hell, because nobody will talk about his team.
Well, I mean, they'll be talking about him after he goes 5-0, and if he goes 6-0 and 7-0, they're going to be talking about him. I mean, Drinkwitz seems to. Look, what did he do? He gave up play calling.
Yep,
and gave it up, and look what the result was. We're seeing that more and more. The guys who did give up the play calling, it worked out well. Urban says it's a full-time job, calling plays. So that's my scenario. And now you jump in there. There's names Francis and I are throwing around. Go ahead, Tony. Give me a couple that you like, and let's see what you got.
Well, I would say what's the guy's name at Tulane? He's done a heck of a job. Summerall. He's done an absolute.
He's a Group 5. He's a Group 5 guy. I mean, you're going to go after another Group 5 guy? I mean, really?
I think those guys can coach.
Yeah, but Gator fans don't want to risk that.
You just got to be smart.
Gator fans don't want to risk that again. They've had their Group 5.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you. Go ahead, finish up. I'm sorry,
but no, that's what I got. I'm just saying there's not that many guys out there right now.
Yeah,
if you there's not that many guys that you are to hire that you would give up Billy Napier at this point in his career.
Not home runs, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's let Franz weigh in there, and I'll let Tony get out of here and go back to his milk and cookies he was getting ready to have.
I like John Summerall too, but I'm with Buddy on this one, and just the pulse of the boosters that I've talked to is we're not going to get another Group of 5 guy. They call him Sunbelt Billy, and Ryan Silverfield to me is because he's a ball. He played. high school ball at Bowles, and he
Yep.
coached with Corky Rogers, who's one of the best football coaches ever. And now, granted, it was in high school, but as Leon Brogdon once told me, the great coaches are all in high school, and there's something to that. The great recruiters are in college, but the great coaches are in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy that played and coached for one of the greatest there's ever been, at least in the state of Florida and in the South, as far as high school coaching. And now you look what he's done at Memphis. They're going to have their third straight 10-plus win season, and they just came from 18 down in the fourth quarter to beat Arkansas. I
Big
like
win.
him a lot, but I just can't see that they do it. Guys, let me throw a name that a booster to this morning on the phone threw at me, and he said they've tried to get him 3 times before. This might be the 4th time. And he said Bobby Stoops. He's still coaching in the still coaching football in the pro leagues. He would be the home run hire. He still has the condo at Crescent Beach and spends his time there. He says that would be the home. He says other than Lane, he says this would be the home run hire. So I'm just throwing out what people are saying.
I have to laugh at that. I'm sorry, not laughing at you. I have to laugh at that because one of the things a person very close to the process told me was every time Florida's had an opening, they've tried to hire Bobby Stoops. This will be the 4th time. Bobby Stoops has been on the runway, tarmac someplace more than most flight attendants. He's coming. He's on the tarmac. Here he comes. And
I spent some time with Bob Stoops this summer. He is a happy dude. He is happy with his life right now. So
I agree with that. I'm just telling you this is a name that boosters are throwing out there. And from a standpoint of if you got to have a home run hire, there aren't many home runs out there. There's a lot of doubles, and there's a lot of singles and doubles and maybe a triple or two. But home runs, okay, you got Lane. Who else?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, and in the new reality of college football, the financial end of this thing, these $20, $30 million buyouts, they're gone. They're gone. So a guy will take a big time job because my first contract, I'm set for life. All right. You're just not going to get those big buyouts anymore. You got a $20 million payroll to start with. So.
Yeah, well, this will let you go, Tony. It's Florida. If you ask them in their heart of hearts, if you ask friends and I, what would you like to see happen? What you'd like to see happen was Florida go out there and beat Texas and win 8 games. That's what you'd like to see happen. But that's not going to happen. We all know reality. I feel like I've been duped again, friends. I've been watching the same offense now for 4 years, and things are going to get better. And it makes no rhyme or reason sometimes, and then they don't execute it well. What are the 3 biggest lies about this team? Our offensive line is great. It's not great. Sometimes it's not even average. They need to get they need a better defense. They got a better defense. They played their butts off last week, well enough to win. And the old lie was, well, once we get a new facility, we'll be able to recruit. I keep hearing these scenarios, and I ain't buying them now. I want to see some results, and I'd like Billy to be the guy, but if he's not, he needs to get on down the road and need to get somebody. I don't know who that somebody would be. I would probably say Drinkwitz. If you can't get Kiffin, I like Kiffin a lot. That's what I want. If you can't get him, I think Drinkwitz.
Guys, do we see the Ron Zook scenario imploded here? Jeremy didn't want to fire Ron Zook, but once he made up his mind that he was going to make a change, he made it. You don't leave this guy twisting in the wind. So the question is, does Scott Strickland make that play in the middle of the season?
I think Scott Strickland now is going to be on a short leash. He's going to have to do what he's told to do because the money people aren't going to put up with it again. And that's my opinion. Friends, am I wrong?
Not at all. Scott's record for hiring coaches right now is pretty bad. He's had made a great hire in Todd Golden, but he said this will be his 3rd football coach. The last two haven't worked out quite like that. He's had 2 soccer coaches. He's had a women's basketball coach. He hired a new women's tennis coach. That's not working out so well. Hired a new, he's had gone through one women's basketball coach. He's got Kelly Ray Finley, and she hasn't really burned it up so far. I think she's a fine coach, but she hasn't won big. And you can just go all the way through the list, and the record's not that good. I like Scott. I think Scott's a terrific fundraiser. I think he's got a great vision when it comes to things like facilities and stuff like that. I think he's terrific on there. But his coaching hires haven't worked out great.
They have not. Let's let Tony go. By the way, just want to mention Ryan McGee said today he attended a private UF donor event. How he got in that, I don't know. Last season, and the Florida Boosters reportedly planning to hire Lane Kiffin by the end of October. Didn't happen. We start winning. So I don't know, Tony. We'll see. So enjoy the games this weekend. Some good ones. And I want to catch up with the Bulldogs. Their defense needs to play good this weekend again.
Yep. Gotta be fun.
All right, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Glad we got together, despite our issues we had with our. Let's see. We can take that out of the way. All right, now they're up. All right, so friends, we got waiting in the wings. We got Lauren Meadows. We'll join him. First, I want to talk about our fine sponsors. And of course, we lost Meldon Law. They've been with us now for a long time, and they keep encouraging us, and they keep doing great things, and they're terrific people. You just can't help but like the people you deal with. If you want somebody that's really good at what they do, and of course, Meldons have that. Jeffrey Meldon has that. He has a staff now, 50-some people in 5 locations. If you want someone who's a Gator through and through and wants the best for the Gators and is the only engineering law firm associated with the games with the University of Florida, you want him. And if you want someone who's a Gator, he's a Gator through and through. So I would encourage you, if you have a need legal, is what I do, contact Meldon Law and ask them if they haven't got an attorney just for you. They'll find one, direct you someplace. That's what they like to do. They do it well. As we bring in Lauren Meadows to join the fray. Good evening to you, Lauren.
How you guys doing?
Francis is going to hire us a coach here tonight.
I mean, some good names. I like a lot of those names Franz was throwing out there, Stoops and Drink. I got one of my former players is Drink's equipment manager. I got to spend some time with Drinkowitz at the SEC tournament, softball tournament last season, and really nice guy, very approachable, good football man. The record speaks for itself. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I think that we're past talking about phantom offensive coordinators and everything else. And it's really talk about who's going to be the next head coach, unfortunately.
Do you feel like I do that you came into this season with such high expectations and all the air has been let out of your balloon?
Yeah, for so much. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, hey, take the wife to Memphis. She's never been. Take her to the Grove. She's never been. But if it wasn't that case, I'd be staying at home. But I want to say one thing, and I think, Franz, you and I have talked about it because we talk a lot, and Brendan, I really thought that there would be more of an offensive impact from guys like Steve Spurrier Jr. and Russ Callaway. I did think that I didn't like what they were doing offensively, but what I thought they would do is, because of Spurrier Jr. and Russ Callaway, there would be more of a air raid feel to some of the offense. Thought they'd spread people out a little bit better, and it just hasn't been that way. And I mean, I don't know what a guy like, Steve Spurrier Jr. is about, and Buddy, you could correct me if I'm wrong, he's about the closest thing to Mike Leach as far as understanding that offense and things like that. And why they haven't tried to incorporate some of those principles,
because they don't use 4 wides. They don't use 4 wides.
Well, but
no,
I get it. Yeah, that's. I thought that would be the thing. So yes, it is just. Yeah, I love football. Y'all know that. So I'll be there every Saturday, ready to roll. I'm going to be there in front of the TV this weekend. And like I said, I'll be down at Ole Miss to hang out there and all those things. But yeah, I mean, it's you know,
if your coach won't listen or even cotton to the idea that okay, maybe if he won't look in the mirror and think to himself, maybe I'm the problem. Then that's where the problem begins, because at some point,
do you really think he's that arrogant, friends? I mean,
yes, I do.
You really do.
I do.
You think he's that, as arrogance is defined in the dictionary? You guys really think he's that?
Why do you want to call arrogance? I mean, arrogance is refusal to think you know everything and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah, like see the world around you and know that this is going down fast, and you choose to make. I mean, buddy, you wrote about it during an off week. They make a decision. We're going to scrap what we're doing offensively and go here. And you and I both know, friends, the first thing we're going to see is a closed formation with 2 tight ends against Texas. I mean, it's like,
and the wagons all be in a circle.
It's like you got all of this speed, and I have a very close friend who asked a certain former Florida football coach who's fairly well known. He said, if you had all the speedy guys that Florida has, what would you do? He says, I'd go 4 wide and we'd run 4 wide and we turn it into a track meet. And you think about it,
there's the fourth lie. Get a bunch of good receivers with speed. That'll do it. No, it won't. You got to get the ball to them.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
You got to, well, first and foremost, buddy, you got to run patterns this offense. You got the best wide receivers coach in the country, and you got guys that legitimately you could have a really fine 4x100 relay team with these guys. There's that much speed.
They'd run under 40 seconds for sure,
which
is world class.
It's kind of like this. It's kind of like when you take a guy who's a drop back passer, kind of like what Doug Dickey did, and try to make a veer quarterback out of him, which is what he tried to do with John Reeves. Square peg, round holes, or square pegs don't fit into round holes.
I mean, buddy, you play quarterback. Have you guys ever seen an offense with 0 quick game? Like, they don't throw hitches. They don't throw quick outs. They don't throw – they only throw slants versus, press man. They never – I mean, where you see, double slant in a bubble. And, I mean, you never see that from them.
Yeah, that's a staple of fast receivers and quick getting the ball. That's a staple. You're right.
It's almost like seeing the ball go in on a free throw.
Yeah.
That's what that is for a quarterback, is quick game.
Here's the thing that Spurrier – was a student of the Sid Gilman offense. And Sid Gilman always said you got 4 vertical seams and you have an X seam across here. And you look at how many of Spurrier's plays, because he'd run that top guy across the X and then bring the bottom guy underneath. How many of Jabbar Gaffney's big gains were when he was the bottom guy on that X across the middle? The other thing is this, when you had Kwesi Green, he's running these 2 guys like this. Everybody's going this way. And that's why the bubbles, that's why the drags work. But when you don't, when you're not clearing your safeties, you run a drag pattern like this and the safety just comes up, boom.
That was the interception against LSU right at the half. There was nothing vertical to keep that safety back there, and he just drove on the in route, and there it was.
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys. We have to be, like I said before we came on, what we want if we had our brothers would be for Billy to win 8 in a row and keep his team intact and do well. That's what we want.
Correct.
The reality is that's not going to happen.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, things may go the other way. Instead of going north, they may go south. we're all sitting there wondering what's going to happen. Does it mean they're back to where they were? Because it looks like, and people are saying, and Lauren, you had a guest on the night, you did a great job of talking about the X's and O's. And he says he thinks it's a bad case of regression with DJ. He hasn't gotten better; he's gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
You can fill in the blanks to all the reasons why. I don't know the answers to that, but I mean, we put so much hope in this team and in DJ. We were all. I was pumped. I thought they'd win at least 7, maybe 8, and possibly even 9.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll win 6 right now.
I don't think
they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win 3.
Yeah, I'd say 4 would be the max right now. I wonder what Vegas, they got that on Vegas. I might need to.
I don't know, but I know they got 1. And like somebody said, if you had Graham Mertz right now, you'd at least be doing 2.
But here's
maybe better,
probably
right?
so.
You just mentioned the name, though. You want to know why? To me, why DJ? Other than the fact he's been injured, granted that, but here's the other thing. Last year, DJ comes off the side over to the sideline, and who's there for him? Graham Mertz, coaching him up. I am convinced that Graham Mertz was the quarterback's coach last year, because the guy we got doing it this year.
Well, he's had his moments, and he's got Steve Jr. right there if he wants to use him. I mean, Steve knows
but you got to want to use him, buddy.
I know that. I said if you said it,
I would
use him.
So the air raid, what I've always been told, is about 20 plays on the chalkboard. So it ain't hard. It ain't hard to get it in, and they've had an off week. I literally would be like, you know what, Steve, let's sit down. We're going to sit down with DJ. We're going to put them 20 plays up on the chalkboard. You're going to teach us the rules. You're going to teach us the options on it, and we're going to go with it. What do you have to lose? Because 3 years says,
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
France, what happened in 2005?
Yeah,
2005, they got the brains straight out.
2005, they came back from LSU,
and 4 of them went home, pull an all-nighter.
And they came down all the way on the plane back. Urban is writing notes on napkins, and he came home with a pocket full of napkins. They pull an all-nighter, and the offense changed. They started using a fullback.
I knew that before I ever met you, buddy, because I read it that's the thing. I read it in the book, and don't tell me it can't be done. I've done it. I've done it as a coach. I've seen it as a player. I mean, it just, and I just don't get it. And I mean, it's over. We keep talking about it. I'm sorry. It's over. I mean, we need to be, like, I heard y'all talking about who you like with Tony Barnhart and that kind of thing. I mean, that's where we are now. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
Well, it's unfortunate. It's heartbreaking, and it's really hard to go through it again. It really is. There's a lot of Gator fans who are not just unhappy, but dispirited and want to give up almost. So I've had it. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not up for a rebuild. Rebuilds are hard. You can't keep doing them. Pretty soon we run out of years.
This will be the 7th coach since Spurrier.
Well,
the next one.
Yeah.
Florida better be careful. They're going to be Nebraska. And I've said that before. They better be careful. Now, it's a lot easier to build now because you do have the transfer portal. And if they get the right coach, he can do some moving and shaking. But if you're not careful, you're going to be Nebraska in football. Searching for the next Tom Osborne. Looks like we're close to searching for the next Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let's put the foolishness aside and make a decision. I played my scenario out a couple of times. I'm not wedded to it. I'm looking for answers, and everybody thinks they've got the answer to this, and nobody does. So if I've got to have a plan, let's make a plan. And I've said this several times on the air, is that if you're going to go for Urban Meyer, fine, that's over here. That's your dream. Go put your money up and go make him say no. That's up to you. I personally don't think that will happen. So who's the guy? I am going Lane Kiffin here. And as Shane says, he's the most like Steve Spurrier. He's got a certain swagger. He's grown up. And like I said, watching him on the special last night, he's a content man with his family around him. He's happy. So he might not come. But I would say he's the best choice. After that, I know these other names. I've mentioned them all. And John Gruden, all that stuff that happened. I think Eli Drinkwitz is the most attractive coach. And I'm surprised I said that. Because up until about a year ago, I didn't like Drinkwitz. But you can't deny what he's done there. And his offense is working. He had enough sense to quit calling plays. So that's my scenario. Lauren, what's yours?
I would say that's about right, buddy. I would say Lane definitely is the guy. I think like Shane, and I got to put a lot of what Shane, Shane knows not only Florida, he knows Lane, but he also knows Ole Miss and the difference between what those brands are, and, you talk about the brands. I was on another show talking about the top 10 brands. Ole Miss ain't in it, so Lane, I know he's got it great there and I'm happy for him, but I think that same growth is what may allow him to leave Ole Miss in a good place and still take the Florida job. Outside of what he did, Tennessee and then went to USC, I think he could put Ole Miss in a good place, leave for Florida, and it'd be that way. Eli Drinkwitz is the next logical choice. If you say no, the thing is with no group of five guy, I mean, if you're not going, I like Golish at South Florida. I think he could be a pick, but I mean, Lane is the slam dunk, not only because of his success at Ole Miss, but you look at what he did at Florida Atlantic and then recruiting in the state of Florida when he was at Alabama, had real success there with some of the speed and guys like Jerry Jeudy and people like that he was able to get from South Florida. I think he'll have the relationship with the high school coaches in the area. And, I think that, it's going to be interesting. If Lane says no, I think he gets really interested. I like Urban, but I got to defer to you on that. You said there's 99.9% that doesn't happen. So, and I like what Fran said about Stoops, but I would say probably Kiffin number one right now, Drinkwitz number two, and I agree with Fran. Stoops could be an outside hire.
How do y'all feel about Cliff Kingsbury?
No. And the reason I say that is he didn't win at Texas Tech. He had great offenses, but his teams never won.
Isn't he in the NFL now? He's with Washington Commanders, right?
He's Dan Quinn's
He's not
guy
with his alma mater.
Right.
I'll tell you as I've spent the day with being peppered with all this stuff, Stoops would be a home run hire, no question about it. But as Tony just said, it's kind of like with Lane. He's in his comfort zone now. I don't know that there's enough money to get him. He's making $11 million a year. Okay, he's making $11 million a year. He's got life that's good. He they'll put a statue of him outside Oxford. I mean, hey, Johnny Vaught, they need somebody. They hadn't had somebody to make a statue of since Johnny.
Yeah, and Chuck,
you heard what he said. He used to think statues were important. He didn't think that's so much.
No, but I know it's not. But they could do one of it.
Yeah.
How about
the
guy that I've been thinking of personally from my standpoint, and I love Eli Drinkwitz. I've been bringing that up for the last 2 weeks. His offense is number 5 in the nation. His defense is number 8. But I'll tell you who's a guy that I think you could go get him. I think even though he's at his alma mater, Clark Lee.
I don't think he'd leave Vanderbilt. I think you're right now. I think he's married to Vanderbilt right now. He's building something. He's had great success. It's rewarding for him. If I was him, I wouldn't come.
Well, we can say the same thing about Lane, but here's the thing about Clark Lee.
And we might be right about Lane.
If you can do what he's doing at Vanderbilt, and he's done, But again, when you get rid of Billy, you're going to lose a good recruiting class, probably, unless you make the absolute stone kill of a hire. You're going to lose the recruiting class. Lane is the guy that can. He doesn't care about that. He's going to get guys that he's going to get, but he knows the portal. I've never seen anybody handle when they first came out with the portal, I thought, boy, that's people are going to die on that hill. And Lane Kiffin keeps living on that hill. You win 40 ball games in 4 years there at Ole Miss, and you look and you're doing it out of the portal. Holy moly! That's remarkable. And if you're going to get a guy to replace Billy, you're going to lose a recruiting class. So what do? You get the guy that comes in there and can kill it in the portal.
Cignetti's too old, 64. Maybe a fine coach. I'm for the senior citizens, being an old guy myself. But I think to build a program, it's hard to start that guy at 64. I don't know.
Another name was Joe Brady. But the problem, I think
that's a good name. Yeah, it's a very
good problem is Joe Brady gonna want to call his own plays, and then we're right back to where we were before.
Yeah, there you go.
That's Joe Brady got somebody waiting in the wings and some guys can, but I think it would just be a bad optics if he comes in and says, "Yeah, I'm gonna call the plays." It'd be like, "Oh God, here we go again," because it's a lot to do. It's a lot.
It's a full-time job, according to Urban. He would know, but. What do you think about what's happening at the FSU?
Well,
he wasn't got a play caller, and he really is good at doing it.
Yeah, but Norvell never called his own plays.
No, but I'm saying what he did. He got an offensive coordinator, and he held true to his word, and he did have some input on the offense. You get that, and you get Drinkwitz, what he did, and you think, is Billy ever going to get it? He's not Nick Saban. He's not Steve Spurrier. He's not a good play caller. He knows his offense. He knows in a perfect situation like that, when he was in Louisiana, he'd get his offense going and he run sequences, plays, he'd run them, the way he'd run an offense. And every now and then he'd sneak one in and go for it on fourth down. I don't know. I try to figure out what Billy's doing. I can't make sense out of it, Lauren.
I got friends on the staff, and I hope they forgive me. He might get it, but he gonna get it somewhere else. That's the best answer I got.
Yeah,
he gonna get it. He might get it, but it won't be at Florida.
Yeah, I think he's got an offense built for if you head coach 10 years, you finally get your offense right. We don't have that kind of time at these prices anymore, and so we're getting to the end. Let's just wrap it up right now with a 40-second summation of this team and this coach and what needs to happen next, friends.
What's next? I think if Florida gets 4 wins, it's going to be remarkable. I think they got the talent to win 6 or 7 more ball games. I think that the reality is if they go 3-5 the rest of the way, it would be pretty remarkable in itself. I think Billy stays to the end of the year. I don't think they'll make a change because I don't think they've got anybody they trust to be a head coach on the staff.
Plus, it saves about $6 million. So I don't know. So you think there's somebody outside that they need to go get, right? Who is it?
Well, I'd like to say Clark Lee would be Clark Lee or Eli Drinkwitz if Lane says no.
Okay. All right, Lauren, it's your time. You're in bed. Save us.
No, I can't. Keep chopping wood. That's the positive. Keep chopping wood. Keep pushing. Keep fighting. Football's a physical game. You definitely don't want to get caught slipping. So every play, go hard, step up, and see what happens. But it's very hard for teams to get around bad quarterback play. And for whatever reason, they're not getting great quarterback play. and they're not very good up front on offense. So that's just a bad combination right now. But, to the Florida people, just, Florida fans, Florida players, just keep chopping wood, just keep pushing. And you never know what happens. Take every game one step at a time, one game at a time, and see where you are when it's all done.
Friends, Billy came out and vehemently said the idea of DJ leaving was comical and ridiculous, absurd, and all that. It didn't sound so ridiculous to me, based on what I was seeing and hearing from people. And again, you never know how much Billy's in touch with the people around him. You don't know, but he says, and you reported today he's out of the boot. He's okay. I don't know. What do you make of all that, France?
I think that I think that if Billy is gone, I think DJ Lagway is a free agent, and I know this: Georgia offered him $5 million last year. I mean, that's real money, and somebody's going to do it. Down there at Miami, they're going to lose Carson Beck this year. They got to have a quarterback, and they've rehabbed Carson Beck pretty good. They've done very, very well with transfer quarterbacks there with their stuff. There's going to be opportunities for them, but quite frankly, I think if and when Billy's gone, I think DJ is gone too.
Sounds like it.
Well, he got reasons. He got other reasons to stay, and I'll leave it at that. So he don't have to. He don't have to go. So he don't have to go. So depend on. I think it'll depend. I think it'll depend on who the coach is, but he's definitely got reasons to stay in Gainesville. And
but she's got reason to go with him too.
Yeah, but they ain't got that sport at Miami, so she would follow. I will leave it at that. I ain't putting his business.
You guys are talking in mysteries now.
Yeah, it's friends though, but I ain't putting his business.
Well, you can't just tease people out there.
But they don't. I mean, they were on TV together. If people watch TV, it's enough. But they don't have that sport at certain schools. So,
well, Billy. I hate to use that term "dead man walking" because it's used too often. It really and truly is. But it would seem to me that you'd try to do something. I mean, even Douglas Adair Dickey in 1978 abandons everything and it's chunked the ball all over the yard, which he had never done before. Just didn't have a quarterback capable of doing it. But even Douglas Adair Dickey changed and decided to go against the grain. And Billy's not doing it. I'm just continuously amazed at how tunnel visioned he is and how he just refuses to take input from outside. I mean,
all right, I'm going to close out with this. I'm an old guy. I can say this. I've been around a while. I remember a coach who wouldn't change his offense, and they hated it. He punted on third down. He said one time he ran the clock out to get a tie, and they asked him why. He says, "I will never gamble to lose. I'll gamble to win." That makes a lot of sense, and that means Bob Woodruff was out of here and gone. And then we got with Doug Dickey. I like Doug. Doug was a smart guy. He won the SEC before he got here and whatever. My late sister could watch. She watched every game. She knows nothing about football, but she could call his plays. So it's that same predictability, the willingness to change that got other coaches fired. Billy looks like he's lining himself up to be in the same boat because you got to understand you can't. What's the definition of insanity? We know what it is. All right, Lauren, good job, buddy. And thank you, friends. We finally got hooked up. We'll talk to you guys again. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk some more balls soon. All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We're going to play football this weekend, and we can actually watch it on TV.
I know. How about that? It's
I'm going to be chilling.
See a good team.
Go get a workout in the morning, and I'm stuck till midnight.
Yeah, I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out and sleep in tomorrow, so I'm going to work out.
Hey, buddy, I sent you a text, too. Make sure you read your text.
Yeah, don't be sending me a check at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, I sent you a text just now. Make sure you read it.
Okay, I will. All right, buddy.
Favor.
All right. Lauren Meadows.
Yeah, guys.
Appreciate you guys. All right, I want to wrap it up with a couple of thoughts about our friends and the sponsors. How much we appreciate them. The folk, the good folks, Titan MRI and Imaging, have been sponsoring our show for a while here now, and they're good people. And they also want you to know they are so customer oriented, customer service. There's a lost art, customer service. Did you ever even try to call a place anymore and get a human to answer the phone, let alone get what you want? How many times do you get frustrated with that? I do all the time. Anywhere you call, leave a message. We're trying to get back to you. Yeah, 2 days later. Anyway, Titan MRI is not that. They're the opposite of that. They will custom make your appointment for a CAT scan or MRI, whatever you might need. They'll give it to you at night if you want it, if you want to go there. And sometimes you work and you can't get off. They make sure they try to fit the needs of the people and the customers, and they do a great job of it. 3 locations to serve you: 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue and Millennium Center, 1 in Lake City serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service they've always had, and they accept insurance, or you can go through their convenient self-pay options program. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds, easy scheduling with lots of options, larger MRI machine for patient comfort. Boy, that's big. So check them out. Coming to Ocala soon to serve you. Titan MRI. Yes, it's your choice. Thanks to our guest tonight for Tony Barnhart. Always good to talk to Tony. And, of course, our regular cast, Franz Beard, I forgot to mention, he's got a great book coming out soon. We expect to be able to make an announcement next week. If you want to know what happened in the season, basketball, check on the book called The Golden Season, coming out in the hardback form in a matter of a few weeks. Matter of fact, we're going to have a email address you can write to. I think it's going to be the Golden Season at gmail.com. We'll start taking orders, and you're going to love this book. It's terrific, full of Chris Spears pictures. Wonderful job by our team. So we certainly want you to know about that, and we'll give you the pricing later and all that. And I've had a number of people who've asked me about it, and I'm not trying to avoid you. I just got to go with more information. We'll be coming to you the next couple of weeks and days and giving you more hard facts about signings and whatever. So thanks to our guests tonight. Thanks for watching, listening to the show. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night. It's that time again. We get the chance to share with one of the greatest coaches that ever walked the fields of football, pro or college, our friend Urban Meyer, Urban Frank Meyer, as a matter of fact, and he is having a rough go right now. He's trying to decide which of the next golf courses he's going to play on his way to try to play every one of the top 100 at Golf Digest. And I did that one time. I didn't play them all. I played about 20 of them. What a trip. Coach, hello to you.
Buddy, good to see you, my friend. And yeah, I've been on, I tell people where I've been, and they're like, what the hell is wrong? You know, for 38 years, I played maybe 5 times a year at most. When I was a head coach in Florida, I never played because the time off we had was in July and it was too hot. And so, yeah, I just rarely played. And, you know, in Florida, the best golf is, you know, fall, winter, and then spring. And there's no time to certainly grab a golf club at that time of year.
Well, you wrote up the word Florida, no place like there to start. I know you've watched somewhat, not following as closely as you normally do, but I know you follow Florida pretty close. And of course, you got the great show on Big Noon on Fox. let's get right to it. We know Billy is on the hot seat. First, let me ask you, did you get to see any or all of the game versus LSU?
I did. I watched quite a bit of it, actually. It was Saturday night, and I'm always been intrigued. First of all, it's the Gators, but just, that awful place down in LSU, man. What a rugged place to go play. But uh, the defense just played hard. They played their hearts out. Nussmeier's possibly the first quarterback selected in the draft. So I think there's so many positives. But at the end of the day, you got to win. You can have positives all you want. And we all know, and every coach understands that you got to get that left-hand side of the column. And it was heartbreaking because I still think they got a heck of a team. I really do. I don't get the 5 interceptions. I didn't break them down by Lagway. I picked Florida to be in the SEC championship game this year because I thought, the way they finished. Obviously, I don't talk to Coach Napier, but I know people there, and they think this is one of the better rosters they've had in a decade.
And the follow-up question is, why aren't they winning? I understand LSU. It's a tough place. I recall you going down there after they had been calling Tim Tebow's cell phone all week long. Of the games you played, they were remarkable. But this is one that they really, really needed to have. And by the way, could have had it. Get you a picture screen there. Could have had it had guns gone a little differently. I think the big question on the table is, and I'm asking you to critique, because you get your picture straightened out there. There you go. That thing's got its own mind. And there you go.
I don't know why it does that.
It's crazy. Anyway, the question, I'm speaking like a fan now, and I know you don't address all these issues, but the question is, if you have a good roster and you have a chance to win and you don't, this is a 1-game sample, what do you do? And I'm not asking you to critique Billy, but it's a fact that there were 5 picks thrown. The 2 right before the half were disastrous. You feel sorry for the kid, but there's something different about Lagway. He's obviously throwing off the wrong foot some. I don't know. I'm not an analyst. What did you see, if anything, mechanically with him?
I don't know why it's doing that. Is there anything I can do, or can you guys do something? Or
there you go, right there.
Yeah, I didn't watch it like that, buddy. And I just, over all my years, I'd hear people say things, and I tried not to listen, but I'd hear something, I'd say, you have no idea what you're talking about. So I've tried to do that in my job as an analyst on Big Ten Network and Fox, that I'm gonna give my analysis, but I'm also gonna be, very detailed and make sure I did my homework, because I think it's first of all, I'm a former coach, so I better be. I have not done a research on Lagway, why he's throwing the interception, the play structure. I don't know if he's over, I don't know. I was reading today that he had some injuries throughout training camp and throughout spring.
Right.
And the fact that LSU's got a really good defense. So to answer your question, I have no idea, other than 5 picks.
Here, I've got to get you back around this way. What we can do there. Got to get you in. Just leave it like that. That's fine. If you will, stay there. While you're doing that, I think the question becomes is you speak like a fan. We live with the fans. We're half fan, half media person, and they're confused and angry and upset. And you know how nasty it can get there when you're anywhere, but there especially when things go south on you. And they're complaining about the offense. Now, they would like him to hire an offensive coordinator. They'd like them to hire you, but that's out of the question. They'd like him to hire an offensive coordinator. They're not happy with the offense. They don't think it's explosive enough. And I will say that it's certainly all over the place. It seems like there's no definitive philosophy. Do you subscribe? I know you like to call the plays. I listened to your headset for a year. I know you had Dan Mullen, and Dan called him, and you sat in on him. What do you do about it? People are just not willing to give up with their head coaches to play calling, because some have, including your friend Steve Spurrier for a year.
Yeah. I once again, buddy, I don't know enough. I have not studied the Billy Napier offense. So if I was an expert, I'd certainly let you know my thoughts, but I haven't studied. I know uh, during my tenure, the game changed so much. The analytics became overwhelming, and the play caller became a full-time job.
Okay.
And also to be a head coach became a full-time job separate of the play calling. I mean, the amount of stuff that runs through your desk, and that early in my career, one of the decisions I made to be a special teams coordinator, because I think I think the head coach has to put his arm around every player, offense, defensively, and the kicking game. And I felt special teams was my way of doing that. I worked for coaches that were offensive minded, defensive minded, and there was a little bit of a, one side of the ball felt neglected, where if you're, Sonny Lubick or Bob Davie were defensive coaches, but they were great coaches, but they just weren't really involved in the offense. And I remember watching that. Lou Holtz and Earl Bruce were offensive minded coaches, and they actually called plays back in the day. So I witnessed it all, and that's when I made a decision when I was a young coach at 2001 at Bowling Green. I said, I'm gonna run the special teams. I ran them all the way through Florida and Ohio State, and that was my way of coaching, still coaching, but being able to hug up each player and at least be involved in that player's world. So for me to be critical of Billy Napier's offense, I can't do that. I don't know it at all, to be honest with you. To understand why there are very few head coaches that still call plays. Ryan Day, gave that up last year, and he's still very involved, of course. But to be a primary play caller, that's a real job. I mean, that's a full-time, wake up in the morning and go to sleep as a play caller, especially with all the analytics, all the information available to you, for a much different job than it was a decade ago.
Yeah. Well, ask Chip Kelly, right? I mean, a lot of these guys are making huge careers out of it. Coach, as a head coach, what's your overall assessment, just the talent on the field right now as a whole? Do you feel like that the talent is at the highest level as it's been in the past, or do you notice a drop off and anything like that as far as what the product is on the field as a whole in college football?
Well, my former captain and leader is on that staff, Brandon Spikes, and I still visit with Brandon, and he's obviously all over it and so positive. He made a comment to me that he really feels this is the best roster they've had in a while, certainly in the last couple of years. They've recruited well. They're big, good-looking athletes, and what you would expect of Florida. So I can only really go by what he tells me. When I watch them on the field, they look the part. I know there might have been a couple lean years in the past, which I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I buy all that. In this era, when I hear, well, they don't have good enough players, my comment is, well, go get better player. I mean, what the hell's the problem? You remember over the years, I actually got in trouble a couple of times. I heard people say, well, wait till I get my players in there, or wait till I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? Those are your players. Get them stronger, faster, bigger. If you don't like that player, go get another player. So I never subscribe to the, well, woe is me, I got bad players. That's not the case. And obviously, the coaching staff there at Florida did a wonderful job at the last half of the year last year. So, and remember, it's still early, guys. They could go on a hell of a run. I mean, I saw their schedule coming up these next 3 games. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, they got a tough. There's some teams out there celebrating that they're 3-0, and they have not played a soul. So remember now that South Florida got away from us. Last week was a tough loss, but buckle up. They don't have time. You don't have time to worry about that. You're going down to a rival.
Well, you're right, and it is
and a good one, and one that's playing pretty good.
Yeah, really good.
Talk about playing Miami, but before I go there, I want to ask you: the Kansas basketball coach gave you some pretty good advice about what it's like today in NIL. When people complain, well, I got to have this money, I can't get this guy. What did he say to you?
Yeah, I walked in there and I never met the Coach Self before, and he walked up to me and hey, how's it going? I said, good. He said, boy, you'd love this recruiting. And I was like, what? How could I love this? He goes, all the note cards, sitting there eating a dinner with the family and the grandmother and the aunts and uncles, and you're sitting there for 2 hours talking about your academics, your graduation rate, and he goes, I don't do any of that anymore. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I simply find out what the number is, if we want to go offer that number or not. If not, we move on. He goes, the days of, sitting. I mean, think about that was Buddy in the thralls of it, because we're usually playing in the either BCS game or a big bowl game. I'm sitting there until 2 home visits a night,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'd rather step on a rusty nail than go in this next home, but you got to do what you got to do. And I guess that's not a big part of it anymore. So
Does that change your perspective of the job, Coach, as far as would that make it better or worse for you if you were, I don't know, considering maybe?
Well, I've
coaching
always looked at recruiting as like a game. So I kind of treated it as such, like you go win and lose, and I'm going to find out who the opponent is, and me and that assistant coach. And I had some great ones, Greg Madison and Steve Adazio were as good at Charlie Strong, uh, some of the best recruiters there were. And I mean, we'd find out who the competition was, and we'd go put on the boxing gloves and go find a way to beat them. And it was as almost a good feeling as winning the game when you got that kid. So that was our edge, If it's simply you work your ass off and someone comes in and offers $10,000 more dollars, I don't know.
More connection as coaches.
Having said that, sorry, Brendan. Having said what you said about Bill Self and what he said, what's the number? I know you pretty well. I know you could not recruit like that, because to you, it's not just about how much. It's the player's heart, character, etc. That you love these players, and it's not just if it was just a simple negotiation and you take out your credit card, great. But Urban, you never recruited that way, and that's not the kind of player you recruit.
Yeah, I've always, and you look at the guys that we recruited. I wanted a guy that was going to fight and fight and fight, a guy that I could push really hard, a guy that toughness. I didn't want to, I didn't get in all that other stuff. So, I don't know. Obviously, some people are doing it really well.
Let's talk about coaching in Florida. Brendan, did you have another question? I didn't mean to interrupt.
I just I just was wondering if it makes it like more of a looking at the job now, would it make it better or worse for you? Like, is it less of a load? Like less to take on? Is it less stressful because you don't have to do all that?
I hear it is. I hear it's
Would that make it more of a attractive job for you, maybe potentially now?
For me?
Yeah, just not having to do that extra, but it seems like that would be so much of it. Like now that part's gone, bam, does that make that job like,
Well, I'd hate to have to
comparable?
rely on wealthy donors to determine your salary. That's still, I get it. I understand how good it is for the athlete, but you'll never convince me that certainly players should be getting their fair share. But the way it's going, that we're going to cover Texas Tech this year, and Texas Tech has the luxury of a billionaire. So I really don't know the story, but they're outbidding like some of the other programs. And so does that make him a better coach now that he's got a billionaire? I don't. That's still, I know what's happening. It still doesn't get to my right side of the brain to my left side of the brain, saying that your success is determined by a wealthy donor. That doesn't compute with me.
I don't know if we'll have a better game or what. We'll see what happens, but we do know that the one variable is coaching, and they are turning over fast already. They're firing coaches. Game 3. We're going to see Virginia Tech's got to get a new coach. The process of getting a new coach. I've talked to a lot of people in recent days. Some of them, off the record about certain things. But one of the things they tell me is you can't imagine how hard it is to find and hire a really good coach. Now, you've had that experience a few times, including at Florida, whereas some people think that you were kind of the president's favorite son before it started, and you were a handpick and going to be in Florida. I'm not sure how much that's true or what you want to talk about there, but Foley obviously came up to recruit you and did a great job, Jeremy Foley, and you guys had
Great job.
You said recently again it was down to Notre Dame and Florida, and you really came close. In fact, I think you might have taken the Notre Dame job and changed your mind, but that's just me. Why? Because you can go to Florida, get one of those airplanes, you can cover the whole recruiting area and be home for dinner. That meant a lot to you, and you said so recently. That is a big factor, isn't it?
That's certainly true. That was the ultimate. Jeremy did such a good job putting together. He told us where we were going to live. He knew where our family would go to church. I had 2 airplanes, a King Air and a Citation at my disposal, and I recruit the southeast part of the country. And I'm home, maybe not home for dinner, but most of my nights were spent at my house, he knew that was very important to me. Let me add this, that I think that you had 2 coaches fired recently, relatively low buyouts. And I had 2 assistant ADs now reach out to me and, gauge some interest and all that, but not of those 2 schools, but we were just talking, and one of them I know very well. And they said, do you realize there's no money in college sports anymore? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, the money is, you're going to see the new facilities go away. Those big monstrous facilities that Florida has one now. We didn't have one when I was there, but Florida got it at the right time, because if you had to go build a facility right now, there's no money, zero. And I was like, come on. He said, zero money. So the day of these monstrous buyouts are over, is what he told me. And when you look at Virginia Tech and you look at UCLA, those were, I think, 5-6 million. So not that that's chump change, but it's certainly not 60 million or 70 million. So I'm wondering, at this rate remains to be seen, will coaches get a longer tenure because people don't want to pay their buyout? And not that they don't want to. I was told they can't, because how about saying that? There's no money left after you do you're paying all the athletes, and not just football, but all the athletes, and then on top of all the other stuff you got to do.
I get it, and I wrote a column about it today regarding how you find a person, identify them, and find out if they're quote unquote movable. One former athletic director said you got to find guys who are movable, and it's not all that easy to find people who meet all that. And the 22 million or whatever it is that Billy Napier have to be paid could be a deterrent to his firing. If I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about that, thinking, well, maybe if I fire him now, it's 22 million. If I wait till the year's over, it's 13, and next year it's whatever it is. And you're right, you can't afford it because there's no money. There's no more facility money and all this stuff they're talking. You're exactly right. I see. And I wrote this column today. How much is too much? When do you say enough? Draw the line in this and say, we're going to play these. This is where we're going to go. And we're not giving any more of these big contracts or huge buyouts. The huge buyouts are a joke, Coach. I'm sorry. They're a joke.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, that's all marketplace. If you're going to try to, entice a successful coach, it's the marketplace. And I agree. I was always very uncomfortable with some of the numbers. And I remember Jeremy Foley one time, I think it was after the 08 national title, wanted to give me a certain raise. And I remember saying, that's a little too much. Let's not go that high. And he looked at me, he said, okay. And so I want to say that was after 08, where and obviously Jeremy, to this day, I still love the guy, we're friends. But I remember I was always very uncomfortable with that kind of stuff. Because when you start seeing those numbers, you're like, what are you talking about? So
yeah, sounds like funny money. And just for a second, Urban, you never have been an athletic director, but you could have been. You have some administrative skills, and you know what it takes to build a program. If you decided to go that route at some point, you could have done so.
And you could also still be the head coach at the University of Florida if you wanted to. I would be totally fine with that, Coach. I would not personally have any issue with that. So just let you know, I'm here for you if you need any.
I get that question almost every day.
Bro, I got you, man.
Yeah. So back to whatever I was saying, talking about, what was I saying? If you were an AD, let's just put the hat on you as AD at the University of Florida right now. All right. And say, how are you going to move forward? Because that's obviously the question. If you're going to fire Billy, and I don't know if they are or not, but it's not looking good, then who's on your list? You've always got that little list in your back pocket. We know the names: John Gruden, which I think is not a good decision. John Gruden, and the one that everybody's talking about, of course, is Lane Kiffin. Now, I hear from good friends of mine, and I wrote this, that Lane is the happiest he's been in a long time. He's quit drinking 4 years ago. Some of his family has moved to Oxford. And I think Lane might have said it even. Oxford is good for Lane. Lane's not just good for Oxford, but Oxford is good for Lane. Now, he's the coach everybody wants at the gig at Urban Meyer. They want Lane Kiffin. What's your take on Lane Kiffin? Is he a hireable guy? I don't think money's going to do the trick. What would you do if you were the AD of Florida to try to attract him?
Well, the first thing I do if I was at the University of Florida as an athletic director, and I have a lot of respect for Scott Strickland. He's gone out of his way to welcome Shelley and I back, and they won a national championship in basketball. So there's so many good things going on there. Your question about Lane Kiffin. Well, first of all, what I would do with the head coach is I'd meet daily. I'd stick my nose in there like Jeremy used to do and say, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? That's your job. Number one job as an AD at this time of year, certainly, when you have so much in front of you. You can go on a nice run here. And I remember we lost Ole Miss and we didn't lose again for 20 games. So there's a lot of people wanted to probably get rid of us too. My first year we lost to South Carolina to Coach Spurrier, and I remember people booed me as I walked in the Beef O'Brady. So, thank God Jeremy was supportive and he would stick his face in every day and say, you tell me what I can do to help, what we can do as administrators. And I said, this is what I need. And the relationship was built in stone that way. Lane Kiffin is a guy that, we had that little brush up back when he accused me of, incorrectly of calling a player not allowed to call him. And I was allowed to call him. So, but he apologized. We have had a heck of a relationship since. Matt Leinart knows him very well, and I'm very close with Matt, loves him. He's that guy that every year, they got to finish. They always start really strong, but they still haven't won the SEC, and I know it's a tough job to win it, but I certainly think you said he's hireable. Absolutely is. Is he probably one of the top, 10 guys out there? Certainly is. But I also heard the same thing, that he's in a really good spot, which is, at the end of the day, that's what you really want for people.
And that is really where you always try to be. You want to get comfortable in a place and have a long coaching career. And even Steve Spurrier, after 12 years, and when he walked away, says he wished he hadn't done it. Talk about how good a job it is at Florida and why.
Oh, I always the thing you always look for is support, or number one is recruiting. What's your recruiting base? Number two, have they done it before, and is there infrastructure in place to do it? And Florida is a positive, 1 out of 10, it's a 10. Recruiting, it's a 10. High-end academics, they work with you as far as getting in people in school. And then you got, so a fanatic fan base that I call them the nut jobs. They're out of their damn minds, which is people started criticizing the Buckeyes last year. And I jumped to their defense as well and said, too much is given, much is expected. I've also coached at places where I had to go out and sell tickets. You don't have to do that at Florida. You don't have to do that at Ohio State. So yeah, much is expected. And but Florida should be a top 5 job, and I still believe it is.
Coach, have you the development of quarterbacks? I know you haven't watched as much. just talking about with DJ Lagway, it seems like he just had such a huge drop, it seems like, and there was so much expectation. How do you get a quarterback like him up for this game in Miami? Like, I know he's a competitor. I know but that does that get in a quarterback's head per se? I mean, I know it must to some degree.
Yeah, what's amazing is, and I've said this many times, the quarterback gets too much glory and too much blame. I if I had time, I just haven't had time. I would go back and watch that film and say, I think the number is 50, 40, and 10. So every interception that's thrown is half the time it's a quarterback's fault. 40% it's the receiver's fault or tight end's fault, and then 10% it's something. The offensive lineman misses a block, the ball gets tipped. There's all kind of extraneous issues that could cause an interception. So, but I haven't done that. So a little bit like Arch Manning, he's getting hammered by everybody. I watched the film and there aren't guys open. So I don't, you can be Tom Brady back there, and if there's not guys open, you got bigger issues than your quarterback's delivery. Get guys open. I don't know their scheme, or I don't know the talent level of the Florida Gators receiver crew, but I'd go back and I'd watch all of that. Like I said, far too often, like a quarterback will get incredible glory when he throws a bad pass and the guy makes a great catch, or the ball gets tipped and it goes in someone's arms or something. And what a touchdown pass. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? Same thing a lot of times when there's an interception or a poor play, you go back as a coach and you watch a film and say, that's the quarterback's going to take a lot of shit for that, but that's not on him. And I'm not saying that about Lagway. I'm just saying everybody's got to take a big picture of this because we know he's a good player.
Yeah, if I might say so, here are some of the things being said down here about Lagway, and I'm a big Lagway fan, have been from the moment I saw him, is that, remember he had that undisclosed injury last year and was obviously severe. And at some point, we're not sure whether it's the leg or the arm or whatever it is, he will have to have surgery. He was unable to have any reps until the last week of fall practice. When you have a coach like you and Steve Spurrier, you give your quarterbacks lots of reps every day. His mechanics are off. They tell me, guys who play the position. His timing is off. He's got receivers. Browne is a bomb, and he's got about 3 really dynamic receivers that they get open. It looks like, from the naked eye and the paid observer's eye, is that he's trying to make throws he used to be able to make at Willis High School, and he obviously had great success last fall. But he's not putting the ball in good places. Most of those interceptions were on him. And the question is, why do you let a guy keep throwing when he's throwing interceptions? I don't know why. And he does have the freedom to change out of any play. And people are wondering, why was he so successful last fall? And why has he not been this year? And part of that is lack of reps and the fact that he's still not 100%. So how long it will take? Now, the other thing is about bringing the backup quarterback. Coach Spurrier would, in a heartbeat, bring a new quarterback in. They've got a young man they think is pretty good, but he's obviously not quite ready. There's too much at stake here with this young man. I think Lagway is a special player. He also helped recruit his team. He went out and did a lot of great things. But as always, there's these rumors when you start losing. Team is divided, offense and defense. Who knows? This guy's jealous because he's making too much money, which brings me to a final question, which is, how much is that going to be a factor? I know you haven't been in locker rooms that much. When you got guys, the top guys making lots of money, and the other guys are not able to deal with it. They do in the pros. What would you do about that if you had that situation where there was division, there was money, there was favoritism? And I remember you dealing with that in the past in college. What would you do now about it?
Yeah, the whole money thing, I don't know what I do. You have young people coming in making more than some veteran players that have been there and kind of gave their heart and soul to the program. So I remember, buddy, you were with us, I think, in the year that we lost 06, we lost to Auburn at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Leak was our quarterback and Brandon Seiler was our leader. And I mean, Brandon Seiler was an alpha. And I come in that locker room after doing my interview or whatever. And I mean, it's damn near a fight, offensive and defensive fight going on. And I mean, screaming, cussing and calling each other names. And Charlie Strong grabs me and he says, "We got to break this up." And I said, no, I want to hear this. And so I just leaned up. I remember I had a water and I just leaned up against it. And I told him, keep going. I said, because after this, it's over, but I want to hear. Sometimes as a coach, you don't hear and you don't know. And they educated me there. There is some very pointed, hard feelings. The defense, if you remember in 06, was tremendous. The offense was not very good.
Mm-hmm.
It got to be very good. But I think it got to be very good because some people were called out. And I allowed it to happen. And that could have went one of two ways. But I think our coaching staff did a good job, but we had also some grown ass men that just figured it all out. So I would encourage, if there is some hard feelings, open the doors. I want to hear it, because the worst thing you can do is suffocate it and it goes somewhere else. Solve it. How do you solve it? Let grown men figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Coach. I feel like that's what made you so great. Which made you so different in a lot of ways. Maybe I was wrong, but the psychology, the cerebral part of it, just seeing that moment. It's like, to me, I'm fascinated with that in general. You think that was a major difference in how you coached in some ways, or not?
Well, if you remember, that was kind of, I would call myself the human behavior, human performance kind of. I was my, I don't want to say expert, but I kind of was. And I would try to find whatever power necessary to motivate that team. There's nothing like coaching a pissed off team. And I would do my very best every week to get that team so pissed off that, whether it be real or sometimes imaginary, where, I remember the whole thing when we played Ohio State and Herb Street and those guys said, "You don't belong." I was like, thank God they just said that, because that's going to be everywhere. So, however, Coach Napier or whoever can just piss that team off somehow, where you play with fire in your belly, and because I don't care what offense you're on, buddy, or Brendan. I don't care what defense. It can be 3-4-4-3. You can pressure. You can play zone. You can play. The bottom line is, football is a tough man game. It's a game of energy. It's a game of emotion. It's a game of rugged shit. What goes on a game of football, and if you don't see the fire and if you don't see the fight, and I'm not talking about the stuff in pregame. I'm like, stop that. I would lose my mind over that. Now, between once the official does this and you want to give everything you got, that's the game of football. And you just get that team pissed off somehow. And I think there's enough talent, they'll be fine.
All right, I know Brendan's going to want to ask you one more time, offer the job in Florida. So go ahead, Brendan, get it out of the way.
I already told him. I said he's got a golden ticket. Anytime you want to come to Florida, we're
the most important thing we all can do, and I know you both are Gators. There's a lot of ball left, man. Let's just get behind them like we did last year. The coaching staff, the players. That doesn't mean be critical. That doesn't mean, but it's September, and just keep swinging, keep swinging. All of a sudden, you wake up one day, you win 2, you win 3, you win 4, you win 5, and then all of a sudden, you don't want to put that cart before the horse right now. I think that's the best thing that's what I'm doing. I'm supporting Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. I'm supporting them all. My friends in this coaching profession, at times it's awful. At times it's great. But right now, let's go support those guys.
Yes, sir. I'll do whatever he says.
Great stuff, man. I want to give you just a minute to talk about Big Noon and your game this weekend. And you guys are doing a great job. You get great numbers on TV. Your teammates there, know you're having a good time. Talk about your show.
Yeah, we hired a guy named Dave Portnoy. Yeah. And Barstool, I'll be honest, because I'm just not a social media, I didn't really understand. I heard of it. I didn't really know him. And we get along great. He's a big Wolverine fan. And Obviously, I'm a Buckeye growing up there. So he's been great. I understand the numbers are really good. We go to Salt Lake City, leave tomorrow. Shelly's going with me. They're going to honor us for the Hall of Fame. And I get to see Coach Whittingham and all my peoples from back in the day. Can't wait to get back there. Still arguably one of the, if not the favorite place we ever lived, Salt Lake City. Incredible spot, great people. And I love our cast. Mark Ingram is, I still say, we should, me and Spikes and Charlie Strong should have our names on that Heisman. He got it at our expense in 2009. But we're loving it.
Yeah. But no calls from University of Florida to come coach. Just none of that stuff yet.
No.
Okay. Just making sure. Just gotta ask, coach.
He's not that far away. He can just get in his car.
I'm manifesting. Leave me alone, Dad.
Urban, thank you so much for another good week, and I hope you have a good game this weekend. Congratulations. You're taking a victory tour down the Hall of Fame.
Heck yeah.
You're playing golf around the world. Life is good for Urban Meyer right now, I would say.
Well, I love you guys. You know why? Because you guys have always been very good. You've been very fair. Buddy, I remember the first time we met. I remember getting in the car afterwards and going, who was that? That guy, because I get to meet a lot of people, and there's some really awful reporters out there, just awful people. And then there's other ones that do their job. Now, if you suck, you got to say they suck, but you don't create shit, And I remember looking at that. I think it was Steve McLean. I said, who is that? And the depth of your questions, the sincerity of your questions, the focus of your questions are to this day as good as I've ever been around. And that's why we're still have this relationship today, because you're a good person, buddy.
What an honor. So appreciative. And likewise, Brendan and I loved our time with you. We still wish you were coaching, but I don't wish you were coaching, because if you ever do that, I told you, I'm an old man. I'll punch you in the nose if you take a coaching job, okay? Just so you know that. I got some fire.
It's the ultimate startup, coach. I know how you love the startups, man.
Have a great day.
Thanks, coach. That's awesome. Thanks, coach. All right.